live now.
Yeah, it could be live.
Oh, you switched to the usual channel, right, Steve?
Yeah. Yes.
And now we have someone in the waiting room, Olga Olovian. Nicole.
Okay, if you're in the waiting room, you shouldn't be.
Yeah, live.
Okay. Okay, we are live. So for we haven't started yet. In 2 minutes we'll start, but anyone in the waiting room, there is someone named Olga Olovyanikov. Please don't be in the waiting room until we call the case that you're interested in speaking on.
Yay.
Okay, we hope.
Are all the commissioners here?
Yes, please mute yourselves because I'm hearing odd sounds.
Okay, is it 2 o'clock? No, not yet. It's 2 o'clock. Okay, good afternoon. This is the Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for 2 p.m. for June 15, 2020. We will discuss the following cases. 2018-201A, 46 Kissel Avenue, Staten Island. 2019-69 and 78, 341, 343 Mallory Avenue, Staten Island. And 2018-142BZ, 204, 2346 Road, Queens. And 2019-184BZ, 4520 83rd Street, Queens. So the first case.
Wait, before you do that, I just want to apologize to listeners, and I hope that our technical people are ensuring during this entire session that we're properly streaming to YouTube. I want to apologize for this morning's session. For technical reasons, we were not able to stream onto YouTube, even though the Zoom channel is working. We hope we've addressed those technical problems and kind of fingers crossed. So we normally in that morning session would have been going through the list of adjournments, going through a number of decisions. And then I believe we had 2 cases in the morning to hear. And there was also a withdrawal.
Yes.
To the extent that we finish early enough, reasonably enough on this afternoon session, we can consider some of those cases that we missed this morning. And to the extent that we're not able to address all of those cases that we missed this morning today, we'll end up trying to pick it up at the end of tomorrow's hearings or on Wednesday morning. So as time goes on, we'll see how long it's taking us with each of these normally scheduled hearings. And many apologies. This is the first time this has happened to us. Hopefully it won't happen again. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the first case up is 2018-201A, 46 Kissel Avenue, Staten Island. This is the continued hearing.
And this is a review session.
Review session, so no one should be calling in at this time.
Right, so we do have someone in the waiting room who just got out, I think she was removed. Okay, so the applicant was on this recent submission. The applicant was trying to find more clarity about the creation of this flag lot at our request, but I'm not sure that what was provided to us, which was a zoning map and 1970 certificate of occupancy with meets and bounds, does that because the meets and bounds only describes lot 22, which is adjacent to the subject lot, which is lot 21. I also don't see the promised clarification about required parking on the new site plan. I do see that there are 2 spaces in a parking garage and 4 unenclosed spaces on the site, but we were asking for a parking calculation, and the prior hearing, the applicant said that the reason there aren't as many spaces as would normally be required if this were a new development is because one house is an existing house that didn't provide required parking as required today. And so I thought that's what was going to be provided, some clear analysis of how many parking spaces are needed on that site. We also didn't get yet DEP sign off on the latest submission, and we don't yet have fire department sign off. And Tracy, if there's anything, or Jella, if there's anything I left out. Jella, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Hi, we actually did get DEP sign off.
Oh, you did? Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did. I can recirculate it. It was after the submission was made, like a week or 2 after, but I can circulate it if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So we have DEP sign off on their latest submission, right? Because they submitted something in response to DEP's letter of March 4th. And then and they submitted new materials to DEP on May 28th. So this is something we got subsequent to May 28th?
Yes,
Correct.
June 2nd. It was a June 2nd letter from DEP.
Yeah, I'll send it.
I didn't see that.
Right, it says DEP has no objection to the proposed GCL 3536. The proposed sanitary and storm will be discharged as per the certified site connection proposal. Is anticipated that the water connection connected to the 8-inch city water main in Kissel Avenue, and the proposed sanitary and storm discharge will be maintained by the owner and not will be maintained by the city of New York.
Okay. So, and how about fire department?
I don't know, Jella?
Sorry about that. Actually, we did not receive anything from the fire department, only DEP sign off. We have not received anything from FDNY.
And I see from our notes from last, actually from you, the applicant contacted fire department directly on May 26th. So,
Yeah.
Chief Daly. Okay. All right. Other commissioners, anybody would like to please unmute yourselves so that you can just say whether you would like to say anything. Commissioner Shonda?
I did not have any additional comments other than just I needed the FDNY sign off. I was looking for the FDNY sign off.
Okay. And Commissioner Otley Brown?
I thought they submitted the original linen tax map to show the lots in the same configuration now as prior to 61.
Right. That tax map was from so they did do that. And then when we looked at the linen tax maps, unless you're talking about something more recent submission, but they did that for the previous. It doesn't show the actual shape of this lot, which was what I was curious about, whether this strange interior configuration is the pre-61 configuration. And I don't think they've been able to show that particularly.
Like the part of the lot covering the whole donut, you mean?
Yeah, so.
Because that's what I see, but what does it look like? How is it different?
So, okay, so here's my question. In the previous hearing, they submitted these 2 old linen tax maps or something, Sanborn map.
Yeah, linen tax map.
Okay, one of them says Eleanor Walsh Farm, and you see 2 houses on it. And then another one, you see 4 houses on it, but not that weird donut, like you say. And then there's this, so you're saying that the that the map, because I don't have the date on here, the map that shows,
April 1st, that Linen tax map shows lot 21 and 22 side by side, but lot 21 extends into the donut.
and you're seeing that from the 60s,
That's the original Linen map that they actually put all the comments on. So that's dates back like a long time. It doesn't say the actual date, but I'm sure they could get that information from finance.
I see. Okay, so maybe that was the problem. We didn't, because you have more experience with this particular subject, we only saw the change dates, right? You can see in red like 1970 something for lot, I don't know what that is.
30, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
these are 1960 maps or something, the Linen maps.
These maps go back forever. It's like, it's the original map, and what they did is year after year, every time there was a change, they would just write the change in and put in the notation of the year. So if you look, hold on, to the left, there's a mark on Snug Harbor Road, block 77, lots 24, 26, and 29, saying the change was made in 86, 87. Sorry about that. The dog is barking for some strange reason.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, so I think if there hasn't been any changes, that means it's been like that forever.
At least prior to the 60s.
Yeah, prior to the 60s. But they could verify exactly when this map came into fruition, what year.
Okay. Well, hopefully you don't. I mean, they provided these other things, and I'm not sure why they gave them to us. That's why, like meets and bounds on lot 22 doesn't necessarily tell you what the meets and bounds of lot 21 is, shaped like that, whatever shape that is, donut with legs. But anyway, so I guess that was my question. What do they think that's proving? But if you're comfortable that this the tax map Linen is really old, then we can kind of, the question is, was it a self-created hardship, right?
I mean, I worked like peripherally with the surveyor's office, but I can't say it's pre-61, but I know that they are old. And these are the original maps,
Okay.
because back in the day, they just kept on writing new information on the original maps.
Right.
And it continued right up until they digitized them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Sheta, do you want to add anything?
I have nothing additional to what is said.
Okay, Commissioner Speta?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, Angela, you have your hand up.
Yes, we just received this at this moment, no objection email from FDNY.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Right now, we just received it. So I'll also forward that to the board.
Okay. Great. Okay. All right then. Any last minute anything? No? Go ahead.
Okay, new cases, 2019-69 and 2019-78, 341, 343 Mallory Avenue, Staten Island. Once again, this is a review session. There is no calling in.
Okay. So we have proof of service of initial application to officials and of notice of this teleconference hearing with dial-in information to officials. Community Board recommends approval with 1 abstention. City Planning submitted an email stating that while it doesn't have any actions before this property, it has, quote, general concerns about houses behind houses with their limited emergency access and visibility from the street. We have a fire department conditional letter of no objection from more than a year and a half ago. So I don't know if they are holding to this position, but it talks about the buildings need to be fully sprinklered. Signage has to be posted for the addresses. along Mallory. No parking anytime along the entire length of the access driveway, 30-foot wide private driveway easement. We'll have segments of drivable grass pavers, sign dimensions and layouts have to meet fire code, and a serviceable fire hydrant must be located within 250 feet of all residences. So all those conditions are in the letter from the fire department, but that letter is from January 2019. And DEP also had comments that still haven't been addressed. Apparently, applicant must submit a Corp Council opinion and a copy of the official map of the city of New York, must submit an internal water main plan, water service showing connection to the city water main. And those were in DEP's letter of December 2019. And it's reiterated on June 2nd by DEP. This application, as stated above, is another house behind a house application. But I see this site as offering a solution to my main issue with these applications, which are that of the blocked drive route caused by inevitable parking on both sides of the route, despite the promise, but as we know, unenforced, no parking signs, and the absence of an actual front or side yard for the houses that front the route. They never get a side yard. So the two-family houses, and this is what I'm thinking, the two-family houses at the rear are generously sized at 30 feet wide by 48 feet long. What is called the out parcel that has adequate frontage has a two-family house on it, and that house is 25 feet wide and 60 feet long, while the two-family houses at the front of the proposed flag lots, and there are proposed 2 flag lots, are narrow 17-foot wide by 60 feet long. And we see enough variance applications where the argument is 17 feet isn't enough for us. And, you know, when you take away a foot on each side for the walls, it's only 15 feet of interior minus the staircase and so on. So what they're doing is they're building very narrow houses on this lot in order to accomplish this flag lot solution. So if you eliminated one of the houses in this project and the flag lots were reconfigured, the front house could match the others in generosity of plan. And then you could have a full 30-foot wide drive permitting parking on both sides and a proper side yard for the remaining house. So I actually think there's too much going on this lot. In addition, the rear lots are very generous at 62 feet and 78 feet wide. So I absolutely don't understand the triple tandem parking for each of those two-family houses. This requires a level of cooperation among strangers that is frankly not believable and will guarantee on-street parking. By eliminating one house, as I suggested earlier, at the front, there would be more room to provide proper parking for both the lots requiring GCL waiver and the what's called the out parcel that also depends confusingly on triple tandem parking for a two-family house. In short, as I said, I think too much is being asked of this lot. No actual hardship argument was made in the application really at all. It just kind of mentions that it's a hardship. The lot could be developed as of right with at least 3, if not 4 houses. So I ask again, what's the hardship? Also, since all of the houses rely on the roadway for parking, the private roadway for parking, or for other kinds of access, that we would need to see a restrictive declaration with cross easements and obligations to maintain. So I'd like to then ask Commissioner Shanda if she has any comments.
My comments were that the hardship finding was not adequate, and that the applicant should provide a restrictive deck for the cross easement and maintenance of the private roadway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Commissioner Otley Brown?
I have no additional comments.
Commissioner Sheta?
Commissioner Sheta?
Commissioner Sheta, you're muted yourself.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I repeat. I said I do have more or less the same comments regarding the hardship. I haven't seen the argument on that. In addition, I agree that there are too many things, too many houses on the lot. If the two houses in the front are combined in one and it gets bigger comparable to the two in the rear, that would be probably much better for people who are going to live in these houses and for the parking itself. In addition to that, the grass pave installation that's shown on the plan, my understanding is that FDNY did look at the site plan and they approved it back in 2019. There is a note on the plan that says that the grass pave will be designed to like accommodate loading conditions. If we gonna let this site plan fly as is, I would like a note to be added indicating that the bidding and all the curbs of the grass pave installation should be designed or will be designed and constructed to accommodate the loading of a fire truck or a fire engine. Because it could be designed to accommodate a PCU, but a fire engine is totally different from that. And I'm afraid that they are showing crushed stone bidding underneath the blocks for the grass pave. I'm not sure if it's gonna work with the crushed stone. My guess, if you need to design this to accommodate a fire truck loading, the bidding underneath need to be probably a concrete or something like a permeable concrete or something like that to accommodate both runoff, drainage, and loading conditions.
Mhm.
So that's all my comments. Thank you.
And Commissioner Shibeta, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I would add is that we currently have 3 lots that are going to become 5 lots. And the 2 lots that they're requesting this waiver for, they're created as lots without frontage. So we run into that. We had a very similar case not very long ago where it was 3 lots that they wanted to create more lots in the back, and that was very recently denied by the board. This condition here, I believe, is the only difference is in that particular case, there were 6 units. And in this one, there are going to be 5 total units. That the problem becomes, is this a self-created hardship? And number 2, these lots originally had frontage. I think that's going to be, that I think is one of the first hurdles that we should be addressing. And because I believe that would be, the answer to that question could be dispositive to this case.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
Move on. Next item, zoning calendar, continued hearing, 2018-142BZ, 204-2346 Road, Queens. Once again, this is a review session. There will be no participation yet.
Okay. We have proof of service of initial application to officials, and we have notice of hearing to officials and neighbors.
It's the continued hearing, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. No wonder I'm not reading about the teleconference. The applicant provided updated DOB objections to include front yard. We had inquired about whether a waiver for a curb cut would also be needed, and I didn't see it on that. However, an additional waiver is being requested to increase floor area from the original submission of an as-of-right 1,541 square feet, including attic and parking bonuses, to now a non-complying 1,700 square feet. This wasn't discussed or mentioned in the statement of facts, revised submission. What is the reason and justification for this additional waiver? This is again the question of what's so bad about a 1,500 square foot house, and Doesn't it put you in a position that's different from your neighbors, or let's say better off than your neighbors? And it wasn't requested before, so how do you justify that? I think the applicant did a good job of demonstrating that lots of similar small size are developed in the area, many with 0 lot line buildings and many 2 stories with attics to establish that the proposed building typology comports with neighborhood character. The waivers sought relative to yards are for 1 front yard on the corner lot and 1 side yard. There is a slight discrepancy between the floor area at the first floor on the plans at Z10 as opposed to the zoning chart on Z1. I think it's a 10 square foot discrepancy, but nonetheless, it's different. Otherwise, I think this is a very good project, but I don't know how you justify that extra floor area. Commissioner Shanda?
So I too observed that the floor, there's an additional request for a floor area waiver, but I think the floor plate of the proposal, that the revised floor plate, hasn't changed from the previous one. The building floor plate, the layout, everything is the same. So maybe in the first one, I'm assuming there may have been some calculation errors that were picked up in the subsequent submission. And that's why the FAR waiver is being requested. With that said, if that's the reason, they still need to provide the analysis to show the floor area differences, which I think they can meet, but they need to just provide that
I don't know. They have
in analysis and in a narrative.
Mhm.
Because the building form, the footprint, the layout, none of that has changed from the previous one,
Right.
from the original submission.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Yeah, although they analyzed the lot as if it's a corner lot on the zoning analysis sheet, they did not revise the statement to discuss the uniqueness finding based on this being a corner lot. And they didn't discuss the waivers that would be needed based on it being a corner lot. And I agree to address the floor area. They should give us a floor area study of the surrounding area so we could see that this isn't too much of an ask. Because the home itself looks fairly modest.
Mm.
And Commissioner Shetta
Nothing further from me, Chair.
and Shamanta.
That's close enough, Chair. I don't believe that this is a very large ask. I would like them to fill in the blanks that the other commissions mentioned, but as previously said, this is modest for the area. If they can show that and they can put that, that'd be great.
Anybody else? Last minute anything? Okay.
Next item is 2019-184BZ, 4520 83rd Street and 80-52 47th Avenue. This is the Renaissance Charter School. It's a continued hearing.
So, okay, sorry. All right, there were a few things. I believe the requested letter from the engineer concerning vibration was submitted, and Commissioner Shetta is okay with it? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. At the last hearing we had on this, the subject of the travel direction and the location of the bus drop-offs was up in the air. Since then, DOT has decided, and I understand we just got a sign-off letter from them, DOT has decided it does not agree to allow street travel to be reversed. And I remain concerned that the buses will drop off in front of an operating business instead of in front of the school. And signs on the indicate that these drop-off areas become no standing zones all day long on school days from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., preventing any type of viable business operation on that side of the street. So I continue to believe that this will unfairly disrupt business operations and ask why the buses that drop off at this school can't have their doors open to the opposite curb side. applicant should clarify how school bus and parent drop-offs are handled, though there is actually an operational plan that was provided that shows the buses dropping off in front of the business. You know, and I have to say that although both the BSA and DOT look at the safety of children in M district special permit, in these M district special permits, BSA is also charged with ensuring that approval of a school in an M district won't also hamper the viability of area businesses. That's the reason there's a special permit for schools in manufacturing districts, because you have this conflict of uses, right? So I would like them, so I would like them to address this, because I understand that they're now meeting DOT's requirement, and it's been a long haul to get DOT to sign off, but they've been ignoring the comment that I've had from the beginning of this application on the impact of the businesses across the street. With respect to the 4-foot height reduction of the acoustical fencing at the play areas, I just want to have Ms. Bankake verify that was taken into account in the noise analysis. She's there. Because they originally were 14 feet and now they're only 10. And also there's very little of the acoustic fence anymore. It's only 6.5 feet long at one area on the 3rd floor. So Tracy, could you just address that?
Hi, I believe the reduction in fence, while it was reduced, it was also the whole terrace area on the 3rd floor was reconfigured because there was a direct line of sight when it was 14 feet. So they pulled back the terrace area away from the receptor, and that's when the fence changed. So the terrace is smaller. It's not directly impacting the receptor anymore. And I believe the 6.5 feet is because there's mechanicals after that, but the applicant can confirm. And DEP did review the 10-foot fence.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right. Somebody mute, please, who's got strange noise? Commissioner Shanda, please.
Oh, okay. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I really did not have any additional comments, but I would like the applicant to clarify as to how it will ensure that the revised no parking zones will not affect the businesses along Whitney. I think they had, and this has gone on so long, so I was looking through the notes, it wasn't totally clear to me either. But I think some of the businesses that are along Whitney and the southern part of 83rd Street, closer to Whitney, I believe it's a restaurant and the store that is and may not have that much of curbside pickup. So, but I would like the applicant to clarify that, and that was one of the reasons why they had said that the no parking will have minimal impact, and then their hours of operation was different from the school operations, so it wouldn't conflict. But it's 7 to 7, so that
No, it's 7 to 4.
7 to 4, but the restaurants do open from noon onwards. So I would just like them to clarify that.
And that's also, my reaction is, the restaurant or whatever it is, those commercial uses change, right? And so it could go from being something that doesn't have curbside needs to something that does. And then you can't rent it anymore because the owner of the building can't rent it anymore because there's no place for the trucks to drop supplies. And that kills a business and kills a rental establishment. So, Commissioner Otley Brown?
No comment.
Commissioner Sheta?
I have no additional comments. They got the letter, the second revised one, I got it. I have an advice or recommendation for them to consult, because I just knew this submission that the building is going to be founded, or the renovations will be founded on pile foundation. Very short, if this pile is an end-bearing pile, and I'm sure they know what is that. Their engineer knows what is this. If this is an end-bearing pile, with these vibrations coming from the railroad, if they are counting on end bearing, they might get some negative loading from the surrounding soil. So I would commend them to consult their geotechnical and just tell him that somebody mentioned this, and if he want to consider it, that's fine. He doesn't, it's up to him. But it's, I feel like I have to mention that.
Okay. Okay. And Commissioner Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly share the concerns of the other commissioners with regard to the businesses in the surrounding area. In practice, schools can also help restaurants in the area. And I think one of the things that might be helpful for us would be whether the applicant is able to get a statement from the owners of those commercial establishments as to their position in light of a possible no standing zone. Would they still want that establishment or not? That I don't believe that will be dispositive, but I think it will certainly help shed some light on it for us.
Mm-hmm. What I'm not sure is, if you look at the frontage, it's not that the restaurant fronts this side, it's the back of the house walls, right?
Mm.
So it's not really even clear how they use it. So it's,
Is he?
what?
I think Tony froze.
Yeah, Tony, you froze. So it's not even clear that,
Audrey?
yeah. Did I freeze or did you?
Oh.
Tony, are you okay?
I'm frozen?
No, you're good. Sorry. Is everyone all right there? Everyone
Yes.
wants me to show that you're live. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You're live. Okay.
Yeah, I saw my little thing go occasionally, so it's scaring me.
Just to go back, I'm not really clear about the frontage that's directly opposite. I think that's the back of the house of the restaurant. So it's not that the restaurant faces the school, where you might say, yay, you have students going to this restaurant all the time or something, or whatever. It's instead that it's about how do they make their deliveries? How does something, we know restaurants are in trouble now, right? What if this restaurant goes out of business and another type of commercial use wants to come in? What's its frontage? I don't know. That's something that really the applicant should address. So, okay.
I think the input of the owner or tenant of those establishments could be helpful to us. If the applicant could get same, that would certainly assist me in my review.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to add one thing, that this block that is bounded by 83rd Street and Whitney and Broadway, it's a shopping complex. So all the stores that are abutting 83rd and Whitney, a little bit of Whitney, it's actually the back of the buildings. So the parking area and some of the smaller stores get their deliveries from the front. It's only the two of the other uses. There is the grocery store that is at the corner of 45th and 83rd Street that has some of its delivery from 83rd Street frontage, which anyway is not going to get affected because the signage does not cover the entire length of 83rd. The question is really just that little bit of the corner of Whitney, which is a restaurant, and the store there, it has a very small footprint. So in terms of it needing that much of curbside, I'm actually I just want them to beef up their argument. Let me just be clear. I want them to beef up their argument as to how providing this no parking area will not be detrimental to the business. That's really, and way I see it is that the footprint of the building along the Whitney is very small. So these stores are really tiny, mom and pop, like really small store, not like your big grocery stores. And this shopping complex has survived on these lot of these small stores. They're the only anchor store, so-called, if you want to call it, is that grocery store, and there's a bank. That's it. The rest are all small stores. So I don't think the likelihood of this becoming a very large superstore, it will require a lot more vacancy of the other stores to be combined into a large store for it to want to have such a big presence of a delivery and pickup on Whitney. But these are just my thinking arguments of why I don't think it will be that integral, but I would like the applicant to clarify that from their analytical and other narratives.
Right, exactly. And, you know, for example, if it has more than one frontage and you can easily service from a different frontage than where the buses drop, that's a response, right? So I think that's the issue for me. Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. So that's it. So I'm gonna, email, right? Phone?
Yeah, oh, right. So now everyone, we're trying something new, applicant group.
So I'm just doing right now Todd's number, 4713.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're trying
Oh,
to,
shoot, what's our number? Crap, 646? 646. Oh, crap.
you mean the Zoom video number?
Yeah, oh, God.
There's, everyone's listening to confusion on the screen, okay? I'm going to announce what's going to happen, right? Moving forward, assuming we don't freeze and we're able to continue streaming, the applicant will be notified by their project manager that they need to dial into the hearing now, right? To give them enough time, and Todd's already in the waiting room, so he's already admitted.
Oh, it's 776, 568, 776.
Don't interrupt, please.
Sorry.
So what will happen is, prior to each hearing, the new hearing starting, the project manager in charge of the next application will be sending a text or an email to the lawyer or architect who's responsible, say the applicant's representative who's responsible for that case, requesting that they join the video call now. So we don't have the kinds of delays that we've had in the past waiting for an applicant to come on, okay? So, and just so that those of you who are listening, it's always the same phone number that we'll be calling from. So if you would note in your own phones so that you recognize the call not as junk, the phone number is 646-568-7788. And
Right.
Since I put that in my phone as BSA Zoom, so I don't think it's a call from a telemarketer or something, okay? So
Okay.
Todd's already in, so state your name, please.
All right, so let me undo the invites. Let me just click that off, sorry.
So Todd, if you can hear, please state your name.
Good afternoon, Todd Dale for the applicant.
Great.
And the system worked. The one thing before we start, just a bit of advice I would give to fellow applicants. A suggestion I found that helps is if you're watching the YouTube video during the live stream, is it will play from when you joined. And I suggest if it's a case that's not yours to fast forward to the end of the stream, because it will make it far less lag. If you just start watching the YouTube video, there's often a 2-minute lag, and that's what's causing the delay. So I would say if you're not the first case or if there's a case afterwards, if you fast forward at the end, it'll help everybody. So that's my little public announcement.
Thank you, appreciate it.
That might help.
So,
So,
So this is the public, Hello?
Get a request from Tony to dial in. Did you see that?
I did. I was actually, my phone was ringing while I was getting my computer set up, so I apologize for not answering the call, but I knew who
That's Jella actually probably was called.
I knew who it was.
Good. We just, because you're the first outside test. We've tested it on each other, but not on.
It definitely worked, even if I did not answer while I was on the computer.
Okay, good. Great.
Thanks.
All right.
So for Kissel from the review session, I did listen to it and heard the comments. It seems as if we got the fire department letter during the review session. Thank you, Inspector Daly. Send move forward in the DEP. And it seems if there was the one question that was discussed a bit was with respect to the flag lot and the information we provided. I would just supplement what Commissioner Otley-Brown said, that these Linen tax maps are the old tax maps. If anyone's ever had a chance to visit the Department of Finance, it's interesting. If you like New York City history, there are these linen books and they go back to when the city first started, and when a book would get full, they'd move to the next book, the next book. The most recent linen books that are scanned up do, as a rule, predate 1960, but the only dates that are actually on there are when changes have happened to particular lots. It is possible to go to finance and ask staff in the respective boroughs if they can give you maybe a specific date for a book. Unfortunately, in this instance, Department of Finance is closed, so we can't go to actually ask the book. But that's why we've provided all this additional information, just to try and reassure the board that this flag lot appears to have been created prior to 1961. It seems actually even earlier than that. We provided as many maps and information as we could. We provided the CO with the meets and bounds just to provide reference that existing tax lot 22 has always been that meets and bounds, just to show at least since 1970 it's been there. This flag lot actually is also, it's the same as the block just adjacent to us, has a very similar type of flag lot also. So it meets all zoning requirements for minimum size and width, and it appears to predate 1961, though admittedly we don't have the very specific date of the linen book, but upon information and belief, it predates December 15th, 1961.
Okay, Commissioner Otley-Brown has her hand up. Go ahead.
If you actually look at the historical alteration books going all the way back to the 1920s, the only changes that I saw that affected lots 21 and 22 are the changes that are actually on the map for 1973 with tax lot 21 and lot 30. And then in 1970, which was kind of written over in 1973, affecting lots 21 and 29. And really had to do with just little small indentations if you look at the tax map, and certainly didn't affect the overall size or the fact that it was a flag lot.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it was just an evening of boundaries, essentially.
Right.
As Commissioner Otley-Brown said.
Yeah, there was some kind of little boundary to the bottom of it for a completely kind of related portion. I think it was lot 30.
Yeah, the south, I believe.
29, there was a little jog cut out. Right? Yeah. Okay. All right. And then the only other question I had was about parking. I thought.
Thank you. So to clarify for the parking, and I apologize for confusion, the latest plan was submitted to provide a cleaner depiction of the 6 spaces that are provided.
Oh, okay.
For this zoning lot, if it was built new, two-family homes in this zoning district would require 6 spaces, which is what's provided, 3 for each. There is a zoning analysis that reflects the fact that only 5 are required, and that's because the existing home that is on the directly fronts on Kissel was constructed providing only 2 spaces. I believe that might be reflected also on the CO. So the development would only be required to provide the new accessory parking for the new floor area. So the required parking is actually only 5. However, 6 spaces are being provided, which would satisfy the requirement if both of these buildings were new.
Okay.
I don't know if that provides a little clarification, hopefully.
Yes, it does. You know what? I just didn't see the parking calculation at all on the drawing. Maybe I missed it somehow.
I'm not sure if it's on the drawing, but I think the most recent zoning analysis does say 6 provided.
Oh, you mean the BSA analysis?
Yes, I'm sorry.
The
Yes.
separate piece of paper chart, yeah, that always drives me crazy, okay. Okay, all right then, so then I would like to ask if there are any members of the public who would like to speak on this application.
This is 2018-201A, 46 Kissel Avenue, Staten Island. This is a public hearing, so please call in.
Okay, I'm timing it, but the information from Mr. Dale about the time delay is quite interesting, because if people were watching and they're not watching in real time delay, it could be minutes before
Oh,
they actually catch up to us. So we should give a little more instruction. We should check that out as sort of a request to the techies on our team, to check that out a little bit, so that perhaps there's information on the instruction sheet that they should fast forward till the end when they join in. But okay, so I think it's been 45 seconds and I don't believe we have anyone in the waiting room. So then I don't think there's any other issues outstanding. Is everyone okay with this application to close? Oops. Everybody okay with this? I don't see anyone raising their hands. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to close this. Please.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Close for decision.
It's closed, and I don't see that there's any need for any submission. So
So
we
no submission. Okay.
close no submission.
Okay.
We'll let you know for about a decision date.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very much.
Next, I'm sorry. Next item is 20, I don't have to recall him in, right? He's still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. So item number 20, new case 2019-69A, 70A, 341, 343 Mallory Avenue, Staten Island.
Good afternoon, Todd Dale for the applicant. I did listen to review session and comments that were raised. First with,
Sorry, there was noise. Could you just say that last sentence again?
I was going to say, I did listen to the review session and made notes about comments that were raised by the board in no particular order. With respect to the fire department letter, the submitted plans do reflect the conditions that were in the letter. We haven't received any follow-up requests for more information from the fire department, but if the fire department issues a new letter with any other requests, we will address them. Skipping to the end, I know Commissioner Sheta raised some questions regarding the pavers and additional notes. I did make note of that and will pass that on to the engineer, pending any other design or changes to the plan design we need. But with respect to the paver and providing a note regarding sufficient support for any emergency vehicle that would use that driveway. With respect to DEP, they did issue those 2 additional comments. I did send an email to the project manager, but just to provide some background, the board is or the DEP asked for a CCO or the alteration map. I believe that information was already submitted. We submitted the PD1 and the survey showing that it was a CCO, and I believe that the official map was already submitted, but we'll review records again. But just to clarify, Mallory is a street that has a corporate council opinion issued. It hasn't changed, and I think that's in the record. With respect to the water main, I did bring that issue to the project architect engineer, and they said that there is a water main in Mallory, and that is a normal matter of practice for applications like this. That would basically be the plumber during construction that would just apply for a connection to the water main. I'm not sure what needs to happen to do this ahead of time during this design phase as opposed to the construction phase, but we did send this information out to the project manager to see if DEP would reconsider this objection. But the short of it is, just so the board is aware, there is a water main in Mallory, and the proposal is to connect to it, and it would be a plumber that would fill it out. It's not normally done at this time, but if DEP needs that or some condition, we'll try and work with them to move forward on that. As far as the restrictive declaration, we do know that that would be required for whatever the final proposal is. Our offices prepared those and we can submit a draft, and we would submit it to council ahead of time so they could review and make comments. And then with respect to the design, the width of the driveway, the number of homes, and the practical difficulty argument, I did hear all those comments. I will pass that on and we'll discuss that with the project architect and review the design, both with respect to any possible changes that could be made, but also with respect to supplementing any argument in the statement with respect to practical difficulty for the site. I believe that that was a synopsis of the key items that were raised.
Completely synopsed, yes.
Okay.
Todd, you did receive my June 2nd email from Paulina Balz at DEP, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
So she wanted, the email was, they must put Corp Council opinion letter again, copy of the official map of the city of New York. And then the other comment was the submit an internal water main plan, water service showing connection to the city water main. That's their last comment, June 2nd, which I sent you, which you said. No.
Okay, and in response to that, as I would say, I believe in the record already, they have all this information regarding the street status.
I know, but we said that, and
if there's something, I don't know what else we could provide. I'm not trying to be difficult by any means, but we believe that that was sufficiently addressed. And as far as the water issue, there would be no internal water main per the project engineer and architect. It would be a water connection to the existing water main, and it would normally be done by a plumber during the construction process. And we'll just see if DEP has any additional comments on that. I mean, the short of it is, whatever the design is, there is no intent not to provide water to these homes. So it will be done, and there is a water main, so no internal water main would be needed. And we're just, if DEP would agree to a condition that the connection has to be, how's this? I can say on behalf of the owner that we would agree to any condition requiring water to these homes. But
they sell. They would sell if you.
Right. But other than that, as I just said, it's a timing issue as far as the process. That's the confusion on the part of the engineers.
So my question, because I'm not really sure, I see your hand up, Commissioner Shanda, but just a second. My question is whether it would be appropriate for Mr. Dale or the architect to speak directly to Paulina Balter, who's the one who sent that request. Maybe that would clear it up, because I'm assuming it's a woman, but I'm not sure.
No, she's the project manager along with Suresh Kumar.
Okay, so perhaps either Mr. Dale or the architect could have a call with her and explain the situation, because otherwise I feel like we're going to go back and forth with the email.
Sure, I've worked with Ms. Balter before. I'm happy to, with Tony, work and provide whatever makes them happy and satisfactory. I truly believe that they will be satisfied. It's just a matter of finding what will give them sufficient confidence moving forward.
Okay, and Commissioner Shanda, unmute yourself.
Okay, so I think with regards to this site, what I find unusual is that this is a very deep site. It's nearly 200 foot deep compared to all the other lots that are in this area. And the existing home that is there, it actually doesn't front the street. It is in the back of the lot. So it just does have a driveway that accesses, that is accessed from the Mallory Avenue, which is very similar to what is being proposed. So I just don't think there is, that's why, to me, it's just more of the narrative of the self-created hardship. That to me is not an issue. It's more of the hardship argument of trying to state the narrative of what the site is, what the unusual site configuration of the site is compared to the neighboring areas. I just want to be clear about that.
Okay, and I just want to, because I don't want to mislead in terms of, we have had, as Commissioner Shabeta mentioned, we did have another case that wasn't so dissimilar that the board voted against. This has 105 feet of frontage, which would permit either 3 or 4, I'm not sure which, houses as of right. So that's the question, how is that different from the other one? And then the issue of the house behind the house phenomenon that city planning made a comment about, where you have too narrow of a roadway, and this is always the issue, but in this case, you have a more generous frontage to play with a better width of roadway than you do sometimes on these very skinny lots. So anyway, so I just want to be clear that it's that you may have different approaches to the same question.
Understood and acknowledged, and we heard the comments. We do agree that it is a deep site, and there are difficulties in the site, but there are options that we can work with. But rather than design it now, we'll go back to the architect and the engineer and discuss.
Good thinking. Okay, so then I would like to open this up to the public and ask that any member of the public who would like to speak on this application to please dial in. The dial-in number is on your screen. Tony, could you say the case number?
This is 2019-69 and 70A, 341, 343 Mallory Street and Staten Island.
Okay, so while we see whether we have any members of the public who would like to join, I'd like to ask Mr. Dale what he thinks he needs in terms of time so that we can schedule a continuation.
I'd say we could be flexible, obviously, with the board's calendar. My best guess is probably a minimum of 6 weeks, just because we want to review the questions that were raised with respect to the design. But I also wouldn't want to extend it too far past that. So maybe in the 6 to 10 week range for submission, depending on, depending on how the board's calendar goes.
Okay, great.
If I could just ask one other quick question, I apologize if I missed it during the review session in the morning. There was discussion about possibly doing the morning items at the end of this agenda, or has there been a decision? Just because I had one item this morning.
So I'm really sorry about what happened this morning. We were all taken by surprise. So the idea is, if we're able to finish this afternoon hearing that's previously scheduled for 2 p.m. at some reasonable time, we'll begin the 10 a.m. calendar and go first through the adjournments, then through the decisions, then through, there's one withdrawal, and then here I believe there are 2 cases. No, there were actually more cases in the morning. So I think it was 2 cases. Now I can't remember, but anyway, so we'll go through those other cases in the morning to the extent we can.
Understood.
And finish them. We'll insert them as we can, either tomorrow, and if we cannot fit them in tomorrow, then we'd have a continued hearing on Wednesday, unfortunately.
Understood. Okay. I will keep the YouTube hearing up and listen and join accordingly.
Okay, so, and also, what was I going to say? Of course, your project manager can let you know as we're going how we're doing, and of course, we're trying that invite. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item is 2018-142BZ, 204-2346 Road, Queens.
So project manager should be sending Mr. George.
I did. I sent an email and it said it was calling and ringing, but I didn't see any. Then the screen disappeared. Mr. George?
No.
Oh, shoot. Do it again?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, call accepted. Okay. Do I close it out now?
What do you mean close it out?
Close the screen. Mr. George?
Not in. He has to be in the waiting room. We don't see.
Oh, it said call accepted.
But that's different than him showing up in the waiting room.
Oh.
Second, okay.
Okay.
Waiting for Mr. George to call in.
Should I email him also?
Traffic.
Oh, it says busy. Should I email him?
Yes,
I'll email them also. Default email? Ooh. Gmail, Yahoo Mail, Ooh, default email, I don't know. Oh, I can't do that. Let me email.
he answered the call? No,
No, it says it was busy. I'll do it again.
please.
It said call accepted.
I don't understand. Call accepted. He has to answer.
I don't know. What does that mean?
Well, it worked for Todd. It doesn't work for Mr. George. Here he is. Okay. There
Oh, we got it?
Yeah, he's joining now.
Okay. Mr. George, you there?
Mr. George, when you, oh, he's connecting to audio.
Okay.
Slowly. Mr. George, when you can hear us, please state your name.
Is he in the waiting room?
He's in, but we just can't hear him. Mr. George, when you can hear us, please state your name. I think he's watching us on YouTube, and that's the slowdown. Mr. George, please close your YouTube video and respond to us when you can hear us on Zoom.
I'm emailing him.
He's here with us, but we can't hear him. Maybe there's something wrong with his audio.
I am sending a text message. Stop. Stop, it's funny.
Mr. George, can you hear us? So the next piece of technology that we need is like in call-in radio, where people call in, they go to a special location where the sort of vetting group finds out everything there is to know about them, and they wait there. And then they're let in one at a time. I think we might need to try something like that. Mr. George, can you hear us? No.
I'm emailing him again, texting him. He's going. Search.
Mr. George? I think we may need to move on to the next application.
All right.
Let's second call this and tell him that we're not able to hear him. And let's second call this and please.
Yeah, Steve is saying tell him he can't connect with his call with his phone. So yeah, I guess he has to hang up and call in.
Please let Mr. Lobel's office know that we're going to hear the 83rd Street project next.
Okay,
2984. Don't call it yet. Just let them know. Somebody text them to let them know that to call in.
okay.
Because in the meantime, we might have, so whose case is that one?
Diane, hearing. Get ready. Get ready to call in.
No, don't get ready to call in. Call in. Okay, Fayanne is here. Okay.
Okay,
Working this invite thing. We need to work this out better.
okay.
So yes, do please call this next case 2019-184.
2019-184 BZ, 4520 83rd Street, 8052 47th Avenue, Queens. This is the office of Sheldon Lobel.
Hi, Ms. Patan. When you can hear us, please speak.
Sorry, my audio is off.
Okay.
I think everyone should be joining now. I did hear it on the YouTube. It's weird with the dial-in is when I get the call, it's a little off, and we might have to work on that.
Sorry, what happened?
Repeat that?
Because I get the call, because I know I was told to look for the call, and it comes and it basically just, it's an automated message. So I just logged in, but it's like you have to press different numbers and get in. By that point, I already heard the YouTube. So I think everyone's heard it on the YouTube and they're joining right now.
Okay, so, and I just want, Tony, if you could just let Mr. George know, we're keeping him in the waiting room. We're hearing another case first, and then we'll let him in, okay?
Okay.
So I'm letting in a bunch of people who I'm assuming are related to you.
So I just, it's like you have to press different numbers and get in. By that point, someone has YouTube on.
Somebody turn off everyone who's called in now, turn off your YouTube, please. Everyone turn off your YouTube, please. Okay.
I think everyone's here.
Okay, we have now. We have Kenneth Miroski, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. We have Scott's iPad. Scott, what's your last name?
Barone, B-A-R-O-N-E.
Okay. We have John Silviano, Amber Cartalian, Andrew Esposito, and Richard Lobel. Right? Diane?
Yes, correct.
Okay, good.
Okay, everybody ready?
And Tony, can you just confirm you let Mr. George know he should stay there?
I emailed him.
That he should stay in the waiting room?
I told him to stay in the waiting room. We'll call him after this.
Okay, now we're gonna let him in.
We're gonna let him in. He's still in the waiting room.
Sorry, everyone. Million apologies for this morning and the current technical difficulties. You know, technology works most of the time, sometimes. Anyway, okay, proceed. You need to swear them in, Tony.
Yes, I'm waiting. Are they ready? Okay. Do you affirm to raise your right hands? Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So we listened to the review session. Oh, sorry, Van Baton from Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. We watched the review session. Just the easiest comment to address right now is regarding the letter to the engineer and the information to the engineer. The applicant team will be forwarding along that information. Thank you, Commissioner Shetta, regarding that. They'll forward it along to the engineer. As for the second issue regarding the operation of business coexisting with the school, I'm going to turn this over to Amber to talk a little bit about the no standing zones.
Okay, so the 80, I'm sorry?
H&A for the record?
Oh, yep, Amber Cartalian with Equity Environmental.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. So the 80 feet of proposed school no standing along the north side of Whitney, that would actually be replacing approximately 4 stalls of currently metered parking. And I know you guys had seen the revised school operations and safety plan. So while we were out there doing our observations, we actually observed the entire day, not just the school peak hours. And the east side of 83rd Street is the back end of the grocery store and a couple of the restaurant operations. And there's no door or access along Whitney Avenue for those uses. It's also, there's a significant grade change and it's fenced off. There's a portion of pedestrian access along the north side of Whitney Avenue adjacent to that school no standing. But there was no loading and unloading activities associated with those uses. There couldn't be because that's currently legal on-street parking. Another thing to point out is that what we did observe was that the majority of truck loading and unloading was concentrated to the far northern end of 83rd Street, almost adjacent to the 45th Avenue intersection. And there is proposed approximately 38 feet of no standing anytime along the east side of 83rd Street around that curb. But that presumably would actually be beneficial to these businesses because it would allow them more turning radius to make their turns. That's why that no standing was designated, so that there's no conflict. And also important to note is that the existing parking designations along 83rd Street are actually no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I know it's being utilized as truck loading and unloading, but there is no parking there, and there would not be any kind of school bus loading and unloading activities on that east side of 83rd Street.
Wait a second. So the no parking zone is intended to basically allow truck loading. They don't park, they unload and they leave. So it's effectively standing for commercial use, right?
Right.
And the idea that you've got, would you say 4 stalls of metered parking? Same, right? Whether cars are parked there or not, if a truck were parked there, it would be just standing. So it's not going to put coins in the meter, right? So the question, and my question has to do with, never mind what you observed about the current business. What if whichever business it is that has that piece of frontage changes? What's its alternative for loading?
Right. Just the way that the grade change and the way that that area is fenced off on Whitney Avenue, I don't see any reason for these business owners to be loading and unloading along Whitney Avenue. Just given the current parking designation along 83rd Street, it's much easier. It provides direct access to the rear of their uses where the loading and unloading operations would occur, for that to be occurring on the east side of 83rd Street. How does an operation function? That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm also trying to get a map. If you're loading and unloading, where are you doing it on the site for those buildings? Am I able to share my screen? It might be easier. I have the plan pulled up just so that this is a little bit more visual rather than speaking to it.
So I'm not sure if you can, but you could email it to Kurt and Kurt can. Can you do that? And I'm going to go on to it also. We're all going to go to our various versions of the screen. You could also talk to us.
Sure. So I'm sorry.
You should tell us what you're looking at, right?
Right. So I'm looking at a graphic showing where our proposed, associated with the proposed school no standing areas would be in context of the grocery store and the restaurant uses.
I think she's on BSA 4 of the
BSA
4, which is the proposed site plan.
Right.
Okay, you need to give us a chance to get there, okay? Sorry, are other commissioners already there? This is 2019-184. Oh, sorry. Can't find it. Here we go.
There's also figure 5, 6.
So sorry, is this in a seeker submission, Fayanne, or is this in?
No, these are just the revised proposed plans, clean, from June 8th submission. And it's page 4 of the PDF.
June 8th submission, not June 10th, right? June 8th.
Correct. June 10th was just the revised engineer letter.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so page 4. Okay, I'm there. Anybody else need time? All the other commissioners ready? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the loading and unloading associated with the grocery store and the restaurants, the majority of truck loading and unloading was associated with the grocery store. Most of that was occurring all the way to the far northern end of 83rd Street, adjacent to the 45th Avenue intersection. And the average queue that we saw was 2 trucks at any given time. The most was, I believe the most was 3 that we had observed, again, all the way to that northern end of 83rd Street. So the proposed school no standing, the 80 feet on the north side of Whitney Avenue, would be designated to serve the school buses. 3 school buses maximum are anticipated here. And that would be replacing the metered parking along the north side of Whitney. There's also the 110 foot of proposed school no standing on the west side of 83rd Street along the front of the proposed school building.
And just to sort of just add to that, if you're looking at Whitney and if you're looking at the photographs as well, there's no entrance into the existing buildings just because of the grade change on Whitney. There are no, I don't believe there are any roll-up gates on Whitney. The gates would be on 83rd Street. And if, Amber, you could correct me if I'm wrong, the no standing is just for those 38 feet on the corner. Everything else, and I think this was discussed before, the no parking, which still permits standing for the trucks, is from 38 feet from the corner all the way up on 83rd Street. So I believe trucks could still stand there to unload and load.
Sorry, they could stand on Whitney on that, if that's the north side of Whitney, right?
No, I was saying in 83rd Street, because there are no gates, no roll-up gates on Whitney Avenue. There's no entrance into the restaurants. Everything's on the rear on 83rd Street. Is that correct, Amber?
Yeah, there's Whitney Avenue is gated off where that parking lot is, and there's a stair for pedestrian access leading up to the front end of those businesses along Whitney, but no access to the buildings themselves.
You wouldn't be loading and unloading on Whitney. You would just be loading in the rear of the buildings along 83rd Street. And you would still be able to do that if you were located at least 38 feet from the intersection between Whitney and 83rd Street. So there's still a large frontage along 83rd Street for a truck to load and unload in the small windows that they will be doing it anyway.
So just curious, now I'm finally on the right part of the so I see this building that's fronting on 83rd and Whitney, so on the corner, right? I see that it actually has a parking lot behind.
That parking lot is accessed from Broadway. So there's no access to that parking lot from Whitney. If they were pulling into that parking lot, it would be off of Broadway.
Right, so my question, which maybe was more easily answered like this, is that building that has, when I say frontage, it means it's property, the building's wall on the lot line that is shared with Whitney and 83rd. The way you actually get to those buildings is from Broadway. There's a parking lot and you drive into the parking lot to get to those buildings from Broadway. So if you're a truck, aren't you loading that way? Because it's only little doors. It's not drop gates, it's doors on 83rd Street, not how you would load major boxes of supplies. No?
Right. So that's another thing, and I wasn't in the front end of the parking lot there while I was making my observations, but the majority of the truck deliveries that I observed were associated with that grocery store along to the north.
Right, I understand that, but I'm looking at businesses aren't static, they change, right? So I'm answering the question for you because really I wish you had done a little more of a site visit. So when I look at those buildings, there are no openings at all on Whitney. And these are really kind of like taxpayer buildings. And the taxpayers have all of their openings from the parking lot that's entered from Broadway. And you were saying there's a restaurant, but in fact, there's a pharmacy, a restaurant, and then I can't tell what, but like a variety of little businesses of different types. And if you go to 83rd Street, these are just doors. They're not really loading. They're just doors in the back on 83rd. So it's not really a loading zone type situation like with a truck dock. It's just a back door, right? Okay. So I'm actually answering the question for you, but I wish you had done a more thorough site visit about the impact on these particular businesses, because I asked that question at the very, very first hearing. Okay. Are any other comments from commissioners? Anybody want to add anything? No? Because you can unmute yourselves and speak if you want, but I can't. Okay, so then, I don't know. So, and Tracy, we did get, Angela, we did get the sign off from DOT just now from them.
Yes, we got the sign off.
Okay. So I think that was my only open issue. Now I have to go back. And the height reduction and the fencing. You, Tracy, the question was about the fencing. To just clarify with the environmental reduction.
I can speak to that too. I know that there was some discussion last time about the bubbling of the plans. So the 10-foot height in its current configuration was what DEP had reviewed and given their sign off on. But the architect's team had gone through and they had bubbled every change since we had appeared in front of the board in January. So that's why you're seeing that being called out as an additional bubble, showing that change, but DEP did review that.
Okay, great. Good, thank you. Okay, we good, Tracy?
Yes.
All right, so I would then like to invite the public to participate on this application. So please, I'm going to time this again. So for any member of the public who would like to speak on this application, Tony, can you read the application number, please?
Sure, it's 2019-184BZ. The address is 45-20 83rd Street and 80-52 47th Avenue, Queens. This is the Renaissance Charter School.
Okay, so I'm allowing this to give us a little time delay time. But in the meantime, we had held, we had hoped that we would be able to close this hearing today and held the 29th for a continued hearing on this one. I mean, a decision date on this one. So, because we understand that time is of the essence because it's a school. So that's what we're planning to do unless I get a different instruction from anyone. Okay.
Okay, so.
Okay, just a second. All right, it's been 45 seconds, so that should be enough for a time delay. And I don't, oops, lots of participants, but I think they're all, we have 27 people. I think they're all related to this application. So, all right, so I would like to now make a motion to close and to thank all of the consultants for their participation in joining in and patience with our technical difficulties.
We just need submission of the final EAS.
Okay. Understood, Fan?
Yes, and it's just I think it just has the letters in it, the approval letters in it. And reflect.
Right, in all recent sections, yes.
Okay, and no changes to the plans or anything needed. All the notes that need to be on the plans are on the plans?
Yes.
Yeah. Good, okay, so then a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay, so this is closed and then we're just waiting for the EAS.
And we're going to put this on for decision on the 29th, okay?
6/29.
Yeah. Just for your information, of course, we'll send out an official.
Agenda, another agenda.
Right, okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to 2018 142 BZ 204 2346 Road, Queens. Mr. George? Please be in that room. I told him to stay in there. Is he there still?
He's coming, just chill.
Okay. I did the invite right. I just want to make sure he's there. Texted him.
7414151 is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Mr. George, if you can hear us, please state your name and turn off your YouTube video.
Let me send him another text message.
Oh, he's here.
Oh,
If you can hear us, please state your name. Mr. George, he's connecting to audio.
okay.
Can you not see the participants, Tony?
Huh?
Can you see the participants? Make sure you keep your participants on this, on your.
Oh, I didn't have it down. Okay, I'm sorry.
You don't know what's happening.
No, I have it up. I didn't scroll back down. Sorry.
A piece of him just dropped out just now, so I'm not sure. Connecting to audio, and we may have technical problems with Mr. George.
Yeah, I don't see him connected to video either. What do I do? You want to text him again or email him or?
I'm not sure. I think this is him trying to connect to YouTube, to Zoom, and his phone dropped out. Can maybe we call him? Does that work? Just a phone call. An
Just a
actual,
phone call?
here he is again. Hold on a second. He's trying again. He's trying again. Don't call him.
I've been put on hold.
Mr.
Hello?
Are you
Yeah,
there?
he says he's put on hold.
Yes, I'm here now.
Are you here now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, please turn off your YouTube video and, okay, and state your name.
Dennis George, architect, the applicant.
All
Okay, thank you. All right, let me swear you in, sir. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to honestly respond to board member questions?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So I listened to the review session, and there were, I guess, discussion around the increase in floor area. The actual area floor plans did not change or were not increased. There was an error in my calculations. I had issued a new sheet, drawing sheet Z010, and I revised the zoning analysis to reflect I guess, just to reconcile the new floor area, the square footage.
Okay, so here's the thing. Previously, you were only asking for yard waivers, right?
Right.
Now, and a yard waiver is very obvious to us anyway. When you have a narrow lot, it's the yards that are preventing you from using the allowable floor area on your lot. So the waiver of the yards is clear. So we were surprised when we saw an increase in floor area being requested, and you need to justify the increase in floor area because it's not obvious that the size of the lot is preventing you from having a viable building or a viable residential building, because arguably other lots of similar have houses of similar amounts of floor area. So you need to argue that in this area, it's a 1,500 square foot house is just not a viable house, because none of the houses that were built since, let's say, since 1961 or something like that, have only 1,500 square feet. And by having 1,700 square feet, you're inching closer to what's what would be a typical area or a viable house or something. If I were to exaggerate it, for example, we do have sometimes sites where you can only have like a 600 square foot house. So nobody would build a house to only get 600 square feet, or maybe you would, but it's not a desirable solution, right? So that's the exaggeration. In your case, we're talking about 200, less than 200, 160 square foot difference between your as of right and your proposed. So you're going to need to justify that.
That is true. I guess the relation between the lot area and the FAR, which is 0.5, for a regular lot, you would net a larger square footage house, which would be comfortable. With this lot, which has been sort of this is a narrow lot, an irregular shape, what you end up with is a much smaller. I know 1,500 would be adequate, but I think it would make a big difference to have the additional square footage. My error initially was in the attic space, and in reflecting the correct, number on the zoning analysis. So that error sort of, that translated over. But if that's the case, I mean, certainly could go back and remove the attic, which would make it, not much of a attic space. It's more be a storage as opposed to a living space.
Mm-hmm. So here are your choices. Either you justify by, and I'm not sure if we have a recent example that we could share of a house where the allowable floor area was very low, and then the applicant justified why we had one very recently, right? Justify why a bigger house is what's, let's say, expected and typical of the neighborhood. I think there was one decided within the last few weeks, right? Does anybody? Well, you know what you could do is you could reach out to your project manager, and we'll try to remember which case that is, and then you could get a copy of that case so you can see the argument that is made to support your additional 160 square feet. I see Commissioner Champa's and Otley Brown's hand up. Just a second. And then the other is, and then the other way of doing it is, of course, path of least resistance, arguably, is to reduce that amount, that 160 square feet in the attic, or find some mechanical space that you haven't counted that you can use as a deduction. So I'm going to recognize in order of who raised their hand, Commissioner Shanda. Unmute.
So, again, I think most of my fellow commissioners that they have said the 160 square feet is very modest in terms of the increase in floor area that is being asked. And also when one compares the total amount of floor area that the applicant is proposing compared to what the built floor area is in the neighborhood, this is very much within the ballpark. So not only the building form is very much within the, we look at the FAR as an absolute number, but also the FAR in the build shape of it is very much within the framework of what's there. But also, if you want to look at the total floor area, the applicant is proposing something less than 1,700 square feet. And most of the buildings that are built here are, though they might be in a bigger lot, they are in the square foot of over, they're in the 2,000 square feet area. So, I think that might be another way of kind of trying to justify the built floor area in this neighborhood is more typically in the range of, you can look at the numbers from the Zola map. That's what I was looking at. And what you're proposing is very much within that time frame, within that range of floor area, though that results in increase in floor area because your lot size is less.
Right, but I don't think we have a floor area study in the record.
No.
So
No.
that's the point, is you can't ask for more floor area without a floor area study to justify floor area, right?
Right. I think that can be provided. And I think these are all the additional justification for the increase of the 160 square feet.
All right, okay. Commissioner Otley Brown?
I was basically going to say the same thing, that the floor area study should be used to justify the extra square footage.
Right. And I do think in terms of the language in your argument, Mr. George, the language in the argument that would accompany the floor area study, we can get a sample of a recently decided case that made that argument, so you know what the gist is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And by the way,
I think,
say this
Commissioner,
is a nice project, so I applaud your design. It's an and any other questions?
I think Commissioner Brown had raised the question about the statement of fact. So that would be revised to include the corner lot discussion.
Yes.
And in terms of the curb cut, it is as of right.
Okay. 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 So good. All right. So I'd like to invite members of the public to speak on this application. Tony, can you read the application number, please?
Sure, it's 2018-142BZ.
What's the address?
204-2346 Road, Queens.
I am giving 35 seconds to deal with the time delay. And in the meantime, Mr. George, how much time do you think you would need to respond to these questions? So you're going to need to do a floor area study. So that means, a little bit of digital database search and a map of the study area. And then, of course, change your statement of facts and provide us with a cover letter that explains what it is that you added. Okay? So how much time do you think you need?
I could have this by when is the next time the board meets?
So the way that we do this is I hear from you how many weeks you need to submit. And then based on that, I try to find a time that we can put you in. At the moment, it's not possible for us to do this simultaneous setting a date for you. So, and then what we do is we set a tentative date, and then the project manager will contact you to make sure that you're available for that date.
Okay, so I would say a month.
Okay, 4 weeks to submit then.
Right.
Madam Chair, so a recent like 73-622 floor area, would that work?
No, no, it would have been
a variance.
Variance, right? And I know we had one really recently.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Shanda, you have your hand up.
You're muted, Commissioner.
Muted.
Sorry. Just the other thing in terms of the flow area analysis, please make sure that if you have factored in additional floor area for providing a garage and other things, that also get added to your 0.5 FAR. So I'm not sure if that has been looked into.
Yeah, he originally had, when it was 1,541 square feet, it took advantage of the garage deduction and
Okay.
attic. And,
Okay.
right, so it went up by 140 square feet in addition to that.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so we gave 2.5 minutes for the public to participate and no one pulled in. So
Okay, so this could, so I end this. So this concludes the public review session for June 15th, the 2 p.m.
it's the
Public hearing for June 15th, 2 p.m. session.
Okay, so so thank you, Mr. George, for calling in, and we'll get in touch with you about the other case you can use as a model and when to come back for your continued hearing. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
have a good day.
So thank you, Mr. George. I'm sorry for the confusion.
No problem. I understand. Okay, bye.
Okay, so Madam Chair, do we want to begin with the adjournments?
Yeah, so now we're going to move to the morning session that was originally scheduled for 10 a.m. to read the adjournments. Just give me a second before you do that.
So will this be considered the review session or the hearing?
This is the review. This is the executive session first,
Okay.
where we talk about the adjournments, okay?
So this is the review session for
executive session to list the adjournments and to discuss the decisions. And there's one withdrawal case, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Okay?
All righty, you ready?
No, one second. Okay, one more second. Okay, ready.
Ready? Okay, so this is the public review session for the morning calendar that we couldn't hear before. So this is for the adjournments. So I just call the adjournments, all of them?
Yes.
Okay, so these following cases will be adjourned and a new date will be set later on. 9091 BZ, 630, 636 City Island, the Bronx. 24708 BZ, 3454 Nostrand Avenue, Brooklyn. 2017-272 BZ, 10-1946 Road, Queens. 2018-66 BZ, 118 West 72nd Street, Manhattan. And, oh, where's the other one? 2019-281A, 965 Richmond Avenue, Staten Island. Those are the adjournments.
And I just want to add that just for people's clarity, we had a published calendar that was posted on our website, but the adjournment for 2019-281A occurred just a couple of days ago, so we didn't revise the calendar to reflect the fact that it's adjourned. Okay, now you can start on the decisions.
So decision items, 15715 BZ, 3925 Bedford Avenue, Brooklyn.
1 second. Okay. So as everyone knows, this has been an extremely bumpy, unpleasantly managed case. And so in order for us to be able to deal with this case at all, the board had to take matters into its own hands. So what we're going to be doing is making very clear that the resolution states precisely what it is the board is waiving and precisely what it is not waiving. And then we're going to be marking on the drawings with like a BSA, for lack of a better word, stamp, certain things about what the BSA takes no position on to alert the Department of Buildings that they need to review those things. So I'll go through that again. And so it'll be both in the resolution as an alert to DOB that the building as it exists today was not built according to the DOB approved plans. And BSA's decision will not cure or legalize any portions of the project not specifically listed below. Those are, and what I'm reading now are the conditions for a grant, okay? A rear yard extension at the first floor measuring 21 foot 4 inches by 18 foot 5 inches, which allows a rear yard depth of 23 feet and side yards at the extension of 5 foot 1 inches at the north and 16 foot 6 inches at the south. A rear yard extension at the second floor of 14 foot 4 inches by 18 foot 5 inches, providing a complying 30-foot rear yard at the second floor and side yards at the extension of 5 foot 1 inches at the north and 16 foot 6 inches at the south. And a maximum height at the rear yard extension of 29 foot 7 inches above grade, with a total, and when I say grade, because I'm so nervous about this, I mean curb level, right? With a total floor area for the zoning lot, including the interior of the existing building, plus the rear yard extension of 3,985.37 square feet, which is slightly under 1 FAR. No other incursions into existing side yards, rear yards, or front yards are permitted, and no increase in height or floor area other than as described is permitted. BSA takes no position on the legality of the existing yard dimensions or building height, or on the legality of the layout of the proposed cellar level, which is not to be used for sleeping or living purposes. We'll condition on in our resolution that the existing conditions drawings and recent survey do not conform to the approved 1992 plans, and BSA cannot legalize reduction of illegal side or front yard conditions, and takes no position on the legality of the parking space and driveway. So those are the notes, which I've also sent, I believe, to council. Chase, you have a copy of those notes, right?
Yes, I do.
All right, so any other comments from commissioners before we vote? So I'd like to make then a motion to grant on all of those conditions in that language being on the resolution.
Okay, so Chair Perlmutter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda.
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta.
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay. The next item is 2018-67BZ, 7406 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay, so again, we're reading the decisions now, so this is an executive session. I just want to point out that in terms of the dispositions that are shown on the calendar, there was an error about the February 25th disposition. It was not adjourned. I see Tracy has her, oh, she took her hand down. Okay. Okay, so that was not adjourned. So 2/25/2020 was, we heard the case, though it was very brief. Okay, so at the last hearing, when we closed this application, we stated that we needed to see substantial progress made to correct the legal conditions at the site, or we would vote today to deny. A submission was made on April 17th with a photo showing that the front door of the commercial space had been padlocked, and there are New York City vacate orders posted on the door. The orders themselves aren't legible in the photo, but you can see New York City logo and the word vacate order. A subsequent submission on May 28th by the applicant asked that we reopen the hearing to consider the new materials. So that's kind of the question before us here. That letter includes a surrender agreement effective May 21st, requiring the tenant to vacate from the premises as of that date and photos of the vacated space. There are still $15,000 in ECB penalties owed for recent violations for illegal occupancy and for work without a permit and so on. And as you know, we don't decide things until penalties are paid. Under the current situation, I'd say ECB probably is working out payment plan or ways of dealing with things like this to not whoever has a lot of traffic or something, can you mute? Thank you. Whoever, so that for recent submissions, sorry, talking about penalties. So I hope that there is some kind of effort that can be made with ECB to at least show us that they've worked out a payment plan. There are stop work orders from May 12th and an earlier revocation of the plumbing permit a year ago, which was issued for interior partitions and plumbing work at the first floor and cellar. So everything's in sort of a stop position. The elimination of the illegal occupancy and the owner's inaction were actually the main issues holding up our ability to consider the application and making us so frustrated that we said, you know, why are you wasting our time? The other concern we had, though, was fire department's requirement that sprinklers be installed because now the staircase leading to the street is the sole means of egress from the apartments above. Before, they were able to be accessed from the rear yard, and now this one-story addition blocks their ability to get out of the building. So, sprinkler drawings dated February 28th were provided with a recent submission and are described as, quote, approved, but we didn't see approval stamps on the drawings themselves. There's attached to those drawings an email attachment that indicates, and that's from DOB's, what is it called, Build Now site, that indicates that it's possible to download a set of stamped plans. Those approved plans should have been what was provided to us. I'm not able to access those approved plans when I go into DOB now. Maybe Chase can do it. I don't know how to do it. But I didn't see that they were approved, so I can't confirm it. But in any event, fire department needs to comment on whether they find the current state of this sprinkler application acceptable, because now the shutdown orders on construction have been lifted and arguably sprinkler contractors are allowed to start working now. So fire department might prefer, given the not very positive history with this applicant, that the sprinklers be installed now, because you have residential tenants who are at risk because they only have one means of egress. So, okay, Commissioner Shanda. So the question before us is basically, should we reopen as opposed to vote now? Because I would like to hear from the fire department for one, but if there's anything else.
I think given the extensive amount of effort that they have undertaken, especially now also with COVID-19, I think the major part was we had asked them to vacate the tenant. They have done so. If they can provide a sprinkler drawing with the stamp and FDNY is okay with it, I would like to reopen and let them and take it to the next step. I wouldn't want to vote it out today.
Okay. Okay, and Commissioner Otley Brown?
In light of the effort that they made to remove the tenant on the first floor, and I'm sure the expense that they expended, I would like to reopen.
Commissioner Sheta. You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
What's going on today with me? Okay, so I share the same position with the other members. I believe in addition to that, I saw that they submitted revised existing and proposed plans, and they noted on the plans that the partitions, that any future partitions must be approved by DOB. I would like to add to that statement or note before installation. So they need to be approved by DOB before installation.
Okay, and Commissioner Shibeta.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with the other commissioners. They removed the tenant during the pandemic, which I believe had to come at some expense. I'd also like to hear what the fire department has to say, so I believe we should reopen.
Okay, so then I would like to make a motion to reopen, and just in terms of the scheduling of this, because we're trying to catch up to what we lost this morning. I don't know that we can still hear it today or even tomorrow, but we'll try to fit it in someplace. And I'm sorry for all this, kind of haphazard scheduling, but unfortunately.
Okay, so we're gonna reopen.
Can I make a suggestion?
Motion to reopen.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Chair Promoter?
Otherwise, this was a decision, right? So we must reopen, and then we schedule when we actually have a continued hearing on this, somewhere over the next day. And if we go on till Wednesday, we could have it on Wednesday.
Right. That's what I was going to suggest. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so motion to reopen, Chair Promoter? Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shibeta?
Aye.
Okay.
My question as to rescheduling, we have opened this matter. Now, wouldn't it be better to put it on for our next scheduled hearing date, not tomorrow, but the one in 2 weeks from then? For purposes?
Why? Because of why?
For notice.
No, there isn't a notice unless the applicant's not watching, right? There isn't a need to notice for the public. We don't have an official notice, right?
No, but no, I mean, give more time to redress the violations and other stuff. I don't know, the plans.
Well, we could have just a short hearing. I don't know, because we have to hear from, because the fire department might be fine with this, and then we could close it and vote it the next time, right? Because ultimately this case was a tiny request for hardly any floor area, right? And it wasn't until we learned that the use was illegal and we have egress problems that all of a sudden what started off looking like a little bit of a tiny ask became a major issue, seems to me. Otherwise, we're dragging this on unnecessarily, it seems to me. Since now we're responsive, right? Sprinkler drawings at great expense. We know the owner spent a lot of money to get that tenant out because we see the settlement order. Right? Okay.
Okay, next item, 2019 6BZ. Sorry, 6BZ, 138 East 39th Street, Manhattan.
Okay. We were just looking to clean up the drawings and make some things consistent. I think those changes were made. Did everybody find that they were okay with the corrections? Yes. Okay, so then I'd like to make a motion to grant, and I don't see conditions. Right, yeah. Motion to grant.
Chair Promoter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shibeta?
Aye.
Okay, next item is 2019-48BZ. Oh, shoot. 48BZ. Sorry. 2019-48BZ, 3145 41st Street.
Okay, subsequent to the last hearing, our council and project manager picked up a slight error in the plan, which is why there was a recent submission. It was a very small error, and that was corrected. So other than that, I think everything was okay. It was good that they picked up that error. It was just something, it was just an inconsistency on the rear yard dimension. Okay, so then I would like to make a motion to grant, unless somebody has something they want to add. Commissioner? No? Okay, so motion.
Okay. Motion to grant, Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Okay. Next item is 2019-84BZ, 107-18 70th Road, Queens. This is still a review session, and this is a decision item.
Right. So the requested hours were updated in the statement of facts and cover letter, and just for our council's being alert, the requested operating hours are Monday through Friday from 4:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So then, I don't think there are any conditions, so I'd like to make a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter? Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Applications granted. Item 2019-273BZ, 136-146 West Street, Manhattan.
Okay, there was nothing new on this one, so I'd like to make a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
It's granted. Okay. Item number 11, 2019-306BZ, 49 West 23rd Street, Manhattan.
It's 23rd. Right. Okay, further on this one, so motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Okay, next item is 2-10BZ and 2019-193BZ. This is 218-222 2nd Avenue and 310 East 14th Street. This is the New York Eye Ear Infirmary.
Yes. So I think we received our DOT sign off, right?
Yes, final sign off.
Okay, and the EAS was updated.
Submitted this morning, yes, and updated accordingly.
Okay, so we're completely good with seeker, and voting on this is good to go. And the drawing,
Yes,
all the notes that we're supposed to.
yes.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for all this enormous amount of hard work on this application. And I would like to make a motion to grant the only condition that I can find, unless someone else. Well, we have a restrictive declaration, which was executed. Did you receive a copy of the executed restrictive deck?
Yes, they submitted.
Okay, so we have a restrictive declaration that has a lot of conditions on it. So those conditions will be incorporated into the resolution, which we have a draft of. The other condition is no mechanical equipment should be located behind the out parcels in the rear yard equivalent portion. which is something we talked about a very long time ago. Yes, okay. So then I would like to make a motion to grant on condition.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Okay, item has been granted. Next item is a withdrawal application, withdrawal, 1099 BZ, 300 West Service Road, Staten Island.
Yeah, unfortunately, after we were basically ready to vote this one out, we learned that the New York Sports Club was closing this site. I believe their lease was not renewed or something. Not sure what the details are, but it may be the beginning of the fallout from COVID on gyms that we're seeing. So
I believe they said they gave up their lease to this site.
yeah, so that's kind of what I mean. A lot of them won't be able to reopen, and so abandonments of these special permits, unfortunately. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to allow withdrawal or to withdraw.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Granted withdrawal. Okay.
So wait, Tony, it's 10 after 4. We've been sitting here for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I would like to take a 10-minute break and see how far we get on the next application. So just a 10-minute break. So coming back at 4:20. Okay.
Okay. I stop the video? Stop my video. Yeah, okay. We're live. We're live.
Okay.
All right.
We have everyone.
Yeah, so we're still on review session.
No, I know. I don't see Commissioner.
Right?
I don't see Commissioner Sheta. Just a second. Commissioner Sheta. There we go. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, hopefully my thing doesn't bounce out. Okay, so we're still at review session. So the next item is new case 52871BZ, 13340 115th Street, Queens. Do not call in. This is a review session.
Okay, and then for sort of ease of finding, it seems like the 150th Street address is not recognized on a lot of the databases. So the address for this is also 149-13 North Conduit Avenue in Queens. When you search it under 150th Street, you don't find it on Acris, you don't find it on a DOB website, etc. You have to use the
It's 150, it's not 158.
150, yeah.
Yeah, I did search it and I found it.
158? I'm sorry.
It's 150, but I'm not saying about SharePoint. I'm saying about how the various databases like Department of Finance,
Oh, I see.
Department, other, even Google search, right? Doesn't recognize the 150th Street address. It recognizes 149-13 North Conduit Avenue. Okay, so I want to get that on the record. As even referred to it that way in a letter from Community Board. Yeah, it's been referred to that way in our own materials as North Conduit Avenue. Okay. All right. So, maybe we should let him start. Okay. We have proof of service of initial application to officials and proof of notice of this teleconference hearing to officials. This application was filed initially on May 28, 2018. But oddly, the community board decision on this or recommendation on this is dated October 2017. I don't understand how that's a physical possibility, so needs to be explained. The community board way back in 2017, eons ago, recommended conditional approval, and their comments then were the 2 storage units should be enclosed with a fence at the back of the property line. A row of trees should be planted to obstruct the noise and light from the neighboring residential properties, and a row of shrubs should be replanted along the conduit property line. Obviously, they're talking about a situation that looks nothing like today's situation. Our own council should note, and this is kind of the confused history of this particular BSA processing. Our own council should note that application number 1063-27-BZ was superseded by application number 528-71-BZ. And that application, this latter one, allowed the demolition of an existing building and the addition of floor area that would not have been permitted under section 11-41 of the zoning resolution for a pre-61 variance. This needs to be cleared up in the record and in the resolution, since the application numbers have been completely mixed in the past. We should make it very clear in the resolution that calendar number 1063-27BZ is superseded by the subject application number, and all of the approvals under the old number subsequent to 1971 are transferred to the new, because the BSA in the past has been ignoring this 528-71BZ and processing subsequent changes under 1063-27BZ, and that's wrong. Okay. Also, as I stated, the address should be 149-13 North Conduit Avenue. A waiver of the board rules under section 1-07.3B42 was requested. With respect to this issue, the subject application number that was granted in 1972 had a 10-year term that expired in 1983. No application under this number was ever filed, but modifications under the old application number were obtained up to 1997. So it sort of establishes use all the way up until 1997. However, under our rules, for some reason, we've talked about this in a previous hearing on another application, no proof of continuous use is required when you're applying so many years after, oddly. So there isn't a requirement to do that. We do have fire department letter of no objection. Because of the lack of legends on the drawings, it's unclear to me what changes are being requested from the drawings, if I'm just using the drawings as my guide. So instead I had to rely on the statement of facts for that. So the drawings must be corrected to describe what the different hatching and so on means. The 1997 approved plans show a convenience store measuring approximately 41 feet long and 25 feet deep, plus an approximately 13 by 13 masonry storage room. The proposed line drawing at BSA 04, that's not an acceptable floor plan. It needs to be redone to match in level of detail the 1997 plans. So that's not acceptable. You have to redraw that. Shows a 41.8 foot wide by 26 foot deep building, plus a 13 foot by 11 foot storage room with an unexplained hatched area, which apparently denotes the sales area if you believe the statement of facts. So the outside of the dimensions of the structure on the proposed and the structure on the 1997 drawings seem to be the same. So wish they'd shown us that on the drawings. It's very confusing. So BSA 05 shows that the landscaped area behind the building has been obstructed by a collection of new elements that were not approved in 1997, including a shed, storage unit, generator, and air station, none of which are dimensioned. these, along with changes in the signage areas, seem to be the main differences that are claimed in the submission, even though not indicated on the drawings that way. You sort of have to deduce by comparing A to B on drawings. The photos are 3 years old and of course should have been updated to show the current conditions. And I'm sure for the commissioners who were able to visit the site, they will confirm what you can see easily enough from 2020 Google satellite imagery and Street View imagery. There is not one landscape remaining on the site, not even like a piece of grass growing between a crack. Nor is there anything on the lot to the rear that was depicted in 1997 as vacant under common ownership as the subject site, and same tax lot, and covered with, quote, new hemlocks. That was what was shown in the 1997 drawing. And instead it's covered absolutely, edge to edge with parking. This is an R3A zoning district, and the use of that lot for parking is forbidden. The 2015 deed shows the site still under common ownership by Blue Hills Fuels, and it remains all Lot 1 in Block 12116. The statement of facts states that the reason for the elimination of the second parking spot is to allow access to an air pump and the landscaped area. That is not a true statement. The former parking space is the access point to this enormous parking area. There's actually no curb cut to get to that parking area, so you must drive through this service station in order to do that. There's also appears to be an active car wash operation going on the west side of the lot, which also isn't mentioned anywhere on the drawings, in the statement of facts, in a cover letter, nothing. So I'm rather surprised that the applicant makes no mention of these facts and didn't go back to find out what was going on about the site. And I'd like to hear again then from the community board, who obviously were asked too many years ago about this application. And I think those are my comments. So Commissioner Shanda.
Okay. One correct statement I would like to make, Madam Chair. Yes, while there may not be any grass, there were weeds. So I guess my question was the proof of initial service of mailing was stamped back in 2018 and the community board hearing was in 2017, and we can accept that as a submission from the community board. That was just a question I had to take.
I don't know, but I think it's too late. I don't know the answer to that. It's really weird, but I think it's so long ago, we need an updated community board.
Okay. So as you mentioned, we do need updated site photo. I was at the site, and first of all, the applicant needs to provide a compliance chart showing where all, what are the conditions that it is complying with from the previous resolution conditions and where it is failing. It is failing in many fronts, but they need to disclose that in the compliance chart. The rear lot, it's not clear. Based on my site visit, it was paved. And you're right, the access to that paved parking, paved area in the rear is only through the subject site, the gas station site, because the site includes the vacant parking area. So it's through the gas station area. I did not see an air pump there. So it is really just to provide a physical access to the rear. And regardless of what that site is being used for, it definitely cannot be used for illegal purposes. And if parking lot is going, I did not see any vehicles parked there because I guess right now in the time of COVID, there isn't much of public parking going on. But that is something the community board can give us a better idea about. In addition, that portion of the parking space is also connected physically to the portion of the parking space that is fronting on North Conduit. This is on lots 8, 11, and 12. There is a physical connection between those lots and this rear portion of the lot. And the lot that is fronting on North Conduit, I think it's lot 8, 11, and 12. It's under different ownership. It's owned by Cumberland Farms, Inc. So I'm not sure what they're using it for. Definitely, it's not a place where they do sell farm produce or anything like that. Based on Google Map, it also seems to be used for parking purposes. Regardless of what use there will be on that portion of the vacant lot, there isn't any fencing that is along that portion of the rear lot and the residential buildings. So a fence needs to be provided to separate out.
Where are we talking about? Fencing between what?
The rear portion, which is not the vacant portion.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't any fencing between that rear portion of the lot and the rest of the residential buildings around it. So definitely fencing needs to be provided. We need a clear understanding of what really is the intent of that space and how is it going to be used in future. We understand right now it may not be used for any purposes, but we need to understand what is the intent. And there are 2 car wash machines along the side lot line and 1 airback machine that is located at the corner of North Conduit and 150th. And with regards to the airbag, again, given the location, it's right next to the 2 curb cuts at the corner. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't block any vehicular movement through these curb cuts. The car wash that's located, given its location, I mean, if the R3 is going to be used as a residential, it is going to be an issue because it is abutting the side lot line. And it's not shown in the plans.
Say again, what's the car wash doing?
The car wash, there are 2 car wash machines that are located along the side lot line.
Right.
Now, if that site is going to be redeveloped for residential uses, you have a car wash machine abutting a residential use. So we need to understand if there is a need for it, what is the alternate location, and there needs to be adequate drainage to eliminate any runoff from the car wash. I see Commissioner Shetta agreeing with me on that one. The other one is the signage. There were a lot of banners on the site, so those need to be removed. And if they are going to remain there, they need to be analyzed in the signage analysis. The landscaping, definitely, other than weeds, there really isn't anything. So need to provide better landscaping. And I think they should provide a fence between the vacant portion of the lot and the portion of the site which is being used for the gas station to clearly separate it out and provide the adequate buffering, landscaping, if in future that portion of the vacant lot is going to be sold off for residential purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to recognize Ted, who has his hand up, and he probably did a compliance visit. Yeah, Ted, go ahead. Ted Ricketts?
Sorry, Chair. So I have not been to this site yet. I have my intention of going there probably this week or next. I did want to mention Cumberland Farms is definitely nothing to do with agriculture or farming. That is a petroleum or gasoline sort of operation. So if on that site, they may have either had gas pumps or gas tanks there at some point, or maybe installing gas pumps or some sort of gas apparatus there in the future. But Cumberland Farms definitely is not related to farming. That's definitely a petroleum, like a gasoline operation, without a doubt.
Okay. They're the ones who own lots 8, 11, and 12, it looks like.
So those might have been formerly some sort of gas storage, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know the history of those lots. But I have been to the site years ago. I will definitely conduct a site visit as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Shonda, do you have more to add?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Otley-Brown?
I agree with all of the comments that were made prior to my coming on, they absolutely must landscape all of the interior lot lines, even if they have to dig up concrete to do so. So that's a must. And I believe that they should dig up the concrete in the rear in that buffer lot and landscape that as well, or plant trees so that it can't be used illegally. I agree that they should be putting a fence in that northern spot to seal up the entry between both lots so that you won't have cars going back there, although I did not see any cars on that lot when I went for my site visit. I did see the storage sheds, and I also saw a storage shed in the street adjacent to both of these lots, and I was wondering if what was going on there were somehow related to what's going on site, whether there's some kind of remediation or something. They need to address that. I agree that there's a lot of signage, but in addition to that, the signage that's in the statement of facts and findings differs from the signage and on the signage analysis form. So they not only need to account for what's on site and make sure it's C1 compliant, but they also have to reconcile both the signage analysis form and the statement to make sure that both of them have the same amount of information. And then the light readings are above 0 at the north and the western lot lines, so they need to shield the lighting or tone it down in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta? No, you're muted again. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start with thanking everybody who spoke before me on these very instructive comments. I would start with saying, when you see an application like that, when you see drawings like these, you get upset. If you are an engineer like me, you value your license, and you see somebody who signed and sealed drawings where it says existing landscaping bed, and there is nothing existing there, you get upset because he's signing and sealing something that he knew in advance that it's not true, like the air pump, existing air pump. So come on, people, be serious, better. This is one thing. The other thing, I share all the comments regarding the use of the adjacent site. I've been to the site, by the way. I was wondering when I looked at the luminous spread diagram, whether we should give them hard time on the luminous spread values to the north. And I believe the answer is yes. And the reason actually I nodded like that when Commissioner Vice Chair spoke about the future. That's why I was doing this, because in the future, if this lot got sold or got even developed by the same owner as a residential, we want to make sure that the current use, whatever we're going to tolerate on this site, is not going to be in conflict with the future use for the lot to the north. The other point is the trailers. I see that they are asking for a permission to put trailers on site. I look at trailers like, if they are asking for something small shed, which already exists, I would be understanding. But if they are asking for like 2 big trailers to be located on site, for me, this is a building. It's just a prefabricated building that you're gonna put on site. So this is equivalent to if we, as a board, tolerate the use of these large trailers, it's like we're tolerating indirectly additional floor area to be used on this side. I'm not sure if we're ready to do that.
Right.
So I believe we need to be like extra careful with this application.
Thank you. I agree with that. Mostly we see small storage sheds to put in a few whatever extra supplies for the automotive repair. This sounds like it's all the storage area for the Dunkin' Donuts. And I grant that with all of these cases that are before us in the last few weeks, months, who knows what's going to happen. But if we looked at it the way it was operating, it seems like they had this enormous amount of storage, and instead they should be building a permanent structure that complies with the TPPN, or amending the variance, not that they necessarily can, because what would they argue? But then the other point I want to make is that vacant lot, it's illegal to use it anything for any commercial reason. So they can't propose parking, they can't propose anything except like building a house on it, or a community facility. So anyway, just as a
For the landscape, even when you look at the previously approved drawings for the previous application, when you look at the landscaping over there in the previously approved plans, it says existing landscaping. When you look at the photos that were submitted by the applicant himself, nothing is there.
Right. Right. Okay, Commissioner Shibeta?
Thank you, Chair. I too agree with the statements and concerns of my colleagues with this problematic application. The only thing I would want to touch on is the type of, to add to, would be the type of landscaping at this facility. Because of the residential nature around this premises where we are, I do think that high trees may be necessary, especially in light of the lighting issues that we're having. Other than that, I just want to second Commissioner Shetta's statement with regard to the trailers. It would, in a way, be basically an increase in floor area. And it doesn't seem like this particular applicant has had much, I would agree with its discretion very much. So I think that we should take that into account.
Move on.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Move on to the
Yeah.
next case. Okay. Item number 16, 2019, 195A, 191 Industrial Loop, Staten Island.
Right. And I just want to remind, because it's still showing on our calendar in this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I should have said that.
Adjourning 2019-281A, 965 Richmond Avenue, also known as Forest Promenade Shopping Center, at the request of Department of Buildings and okayed by the property owner.
So it'll be on the next calendar, June 30th. So just, yeah, that's agreed upon.
Okay, so with respect to the industrial loop case, we have proof of service of initial application.
It's a continued hearing, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. We have further DEP comments from April 30th, 2020 that the applicant responded to. As I know, we still need DEP sign off. And let's see, they're asking, as they usually do, for a corporate council opinion, a copy of the official map, a certified site connection proposal showing the proposed method of disposing the internal sanitary and storm, and a plan showing method of connection to the water main. We also need, unless we've received it and I didn't see it, fire department sign off or comments. They did provide clarity on the sidewalk continuity in the form of a BSA-1 site plan rather than a builder's pavement plan. And I know that there aren't technically builder's pavement plans here, but we get the equivalent of one. We get something that looks just like a pavement plan, but it's just not going to be reviewed by DOT. But this site plan doesn't show dimensions on the sidewalk or curb cut widths. The elevations on the site plan reflect no change from road bed to top of curb. So in other words, they just drew some lines on top of an existing site plan. So no change from road bed to top of curb or sidewalk level, and no indication that this property owner will pave to the center line of the street, as would be required if this were a map. There is also no indication that the quality and method of the work would comply with DOT standards. And as I stated at the last hearing, the so-called waiver that Industrial Loop received, waiver with DOT, it only states that DOT does not agree to substandard sidewalks and roadways and refuses responsibility for those being constructed. Not that the sidewalks and roadways don't have to be constructed to meet materiality and method standards. I don't understand why we're getting this now after all this time with Industrial Loop. And those are my comments. Commissioner Shanda?
Yeah, I was also looking for more dimensions on the plans. I didn't see that. And also we don't have an FDNY sign off.
Mhm. Can someone who has a lot of traffic passing by mute themselves? I don't know if that's Commissioner, I don't think it's Commissioner Ollie Brown.
Not me.
Okay, go ahead.
I have no additional comments.
Commissioner Shetta
I have no additional comments.
and Shibeta.
I have no, I'd like to hear from fire department, but other than that, nothing additional.
Yeah, I mean, they still have this issue with DEP, and as with the other case, I think they maybe need to sit down or have another conference call. Because they have the same issue with the site connection plan.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Fire
so,
department hasn't weighed in, and we know that fire department had a problem on another site,
on 191, yeah.
right? But that one was actually a continuation, sort of an extension on industrial.
I think I'm sorry, I saw something earlier. He contacted me. He looped me in on an email. They're going to try and arrange a trip with all parties, the FDNY. They gave John a contact from the Arthur Kill Association.
What? What?
This is with regards to the issue we had with the last industrial.
The other
loop
industrial,
site
2019
where
68A.
FDNY had concern.
Right.
Okay.
So they said they gave him, he included me on an email that he had sent to John, Commissioner, to Deputy Chief, that they gave him a contact number to contact the Arthur Kill. Remember, he had to contact the Arthur Kill? They had on a contact to do a site visit. They had a concern about the blockage of entrance.
Yes.
Yeah, and some other things. So,
Let's
so
not
they're gonna,
use this, so let's fire department.
no, but it included this case.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Okay, let's have fire department discuss it, because I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
All right, okay, I think that.
Okay, so now what are we gonna do? We're
Now
gonna do
it's
hearing?
5 o'clock, we can try at least
Wanna
one.
do hearing?
People are feeling.
Do we want to do a hearing? Okay.
Yeah, so let's start with the first one and see where we get, right?
Okay, so we are now commencing a public hearing for June 15, 2020. This is the cases that were supposed to be heard this morning. So it's a new case, 528-71BZ, 13340 150th Street, Queens, also known as whatever that address was. 14913 North Conduit Avenue. I think Elise was contacted already. Ella?
He's dialing in. You should display your participants, Tony, so you can.
I have it.
Okay. So
Yeah, I'm calling her. I'm inviting her.
She already is here. You don't see her? She's before our very faces.
There she is. Oh, I didn't see it. That's why. I'm sorry.
Did you call it?
Yeah, I did. Elise?
State your name when you can hear us, Elise.
She's in there.
Yes, she can't hear us.
Maybe because she's calling her.
State your name when you can hear us. Turn off your YouTube video. You can't get it. I could see her struggling. I
don't know if calling them throws them off or connects with the YouTube, the Zoom?
Yeah, she's there. She can see us, but she can't necessarily hear us. Can you hear us? Speak, because you're not, I didn't mute you. Unmute yourself. You're muted. Now you're not muted.
She's not muted.
We cannot hear you. Oh, wow. Still can't hear you. You want to try? It seems like you can hear us. You're calling in. She's calling in. Okay.
Okay, it's just gonna.
It's like charades. Why do we have a lot of problems today. We're going to need to find alternates in case. I wonder if other people are having problems.
Well, Todd said, what was the delay Todd was saying? It was the calling when he called in, or on the YouTube?
That's different.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here she is again. Let's try her. Speak when you can hear us, please.
Hi, I was trying to log in via Zoom, but I kept getting calls from here, so I couldn't.
Sorry.
Okay, do you want me to just stay like this?
Yeah, well, if you can do the Zoom, but if you can't, it's all right.
No. I have a question for you, Elise, because obviously this invite thing isn't working at all. What happened? You received many calls from us?
Yeah, so while I'm trying to log in, I'm getting a call, and then there's a prompt, and it says, press this, unmute yourself, remute yourself, and there's all these different instructions, and you can't like log on to Zoom at the same time.
That's what I was saying. If we're inviting them, it might create a problem.
So
But I can stay like this. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But so we're gonna have to work. Maybe we could use you as our test case to figure out how to do this invites.
Okay, sorry, you can't. It's hard to use 3 different hands and 3 different computers at one time.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have to swear you in, Elise. Do you affirm to tell
Okay.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do, thank you.
Okay, proceed.
So I guess firstly, I'd like to state that what happened was we filed this application under the old calendar number, the pre-61 calendar number, and was told by your staff to refile it under the 71 calendar number.
Right, we know.
So we met with the community board with the old calendar number, but we're more than happy to go back and meet with the community board again.
So here's the first part of it. So you filed this under the old calendar number. We're aware of that because we see the letter that came from Carlo Costanza to you saying this is the wrong application number. But so you filed in 2017 under the old one, and the community board heard it under the old one. So the reason we want you to go back though is because although these
it's old,
the situation doesn't look anything like what was the case in 2017.
Yep, no problem. And we're more than happy to go back and explain the whole thing to them all over again because it's been a while. Also, I guess for the rest of the comments, we heard your comments about lighting and landscaping and the car wash and the air vacuum and the compliance chart and the banners and the signage. And we are speaking with, we've actually had many conversations in the past week or two with British Petroleum, and we are working on those, and we'll get back to you in writing.
Wait, who's British Petroleum? Is British Petroleum the actual?
It's a BP site.
Oh, so
it's like a subless, or it might be, I don't know what level it is. It's either a lessee or a sublessee.
Okay. Okay, so did you hear us about the illegal use on their property, which is part of this property?
You mean in the back?
Yes.
The parking?
All
Yeah.
one, right? It's all owned
So,
by
yeah.
one person.
Mm-hmm. So they're in control of that whole area, and we've talked with them about the parking and the paving and the landscaping, because on the previously approved plans, that does say that that was a landscaped area. And I believe Commissioner Brown also mentioned to consider putting back a buffer area there. So we will talk with them about that. And we will, before we put anything in, we will do proposed plans to you that show landscaping, signage, lighting, all fixed.
Okay, so the thing is though, the drawings that were provided to us in 1997 show describe that other adjacent portion of the lot as tax lot 1, adjacent vacant portion of lot, same owner. And then there's an arrow that describes that as having new hemlocks with an arrow that indicates the whole place is hemlocks, right? So we're not looking for a buffer between this particular use, the gas station and the Dunkin' Donuts. We're talking about an illegal use on the balance of lot 1. They can't then create a curb cut or something and then use this as a parking lot at the balance of lot 1. This is in an R district, and they don't
Understood.
for it, right?
So we're going to send them this video so they'll see that, and also propose to buffer some of that area.
And I would
think actually what Commissioner Otley-Brown was getting at is how do you prevent an illegal use in an R district that has no business being used as commercial? And we've done this in the past. You landscape it like a park. In this case, very large site. You donate to the neighborhood a park. And if you want to take this off and sell it to a residential developer who can comply with zoning and build residential, or a very nice school or a community facility, whatever, you go ahead. But you do not have an extension on the commercial automotive use, even if they own it and they're an automotive commercial occupant, right? Too bad.
Yeah, understood. And we will be notifying them of this hearing and what happens, and they already actually know about that to a large extent because we've had conversations with them about not parking on that vacant area.
I would add to that is not only until the fate of the rear area is determined, whether it gets developed or remains as an open space, I want to make sure our drawings also clearly indicate that there is a fence between the portion of the lot that is being used as a gas station and the rear lot, and have adequate landscaping on both sides. So if in future the rear portion of the lot gets developed for residential use, there will be per plan adequate buffering, and the lighting level, all of that would be what it would be if it was abutting a residential lot line, and everything would be zero. So I think we need to treat it in both ways.
Okay, so you want to see the landscaping kind of where the gas station ends more than
No.
Okay. Yeah.
So the assumption is the assumption has to be, and I see Commissioner Otley-Brown's hand up just a second. The assumption is this lot is going to be subdivided by the property owner into two.
Understood.
Just like face it, they probably could never qualify for a variance to extend this commercial use due to that adjoining portion of the lot, which the board has thought of always as landscaped, right? So the assumption that this property owner is going to subdivide it into two lots and sell that portion off to a developer likely to build residential. So what the board has been used to seeing, and the property owner basically ignored, was a clear buffer zone between this automotive use, which is an annoyance for residents, and the lot line of the new lot, which I don't even think would be where it's shown drawn because it's all obstructed, but with all of this stuff. So you would move that lot line, that separation line back, really buffer it up with lots and lots of trees, and then allow for a buffer zone on the residential portion, because we're assuming it would be sold to a residential developer. And now you sort of prep the site to receive a residential use and reduce the aggressiveness of this use. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Otley-Brown. Please unmute yourself. Unmute.
Yes, I was just going to echo what you had said many a time. The best way to prevent an illegal use is to landscape it so people can't even walk on it. So in addition to having different types of trees, there should also be ground cover, like the there's this like spruce kind of ground cover that you had recommended once before. So literally people can't even walk onto that site. And then in addition to that, if you look at the previously approved plans, they have landscaping on both sides of that northern lot line. And so you should keep on with that theme, landscape both sides.
Understood.
Okay. Okay. Else,
Please. Yeah, in addition to that, can you please have whoever prepared these plans and signed and sealed them to inspect the site and remove all the wording that says existing that doesn't really exist, and then add a note to the new plan saying that these plans were prepared based on site inspection. Because if something is mentioned as existing and we find out that it's not, it's going to be a big deal.
Understood.
Thank you.
so, and in addition to which, floor plan is not acceptable. It has to look like a floor plan. I don't even know what that thing is, those line lines that were provided. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Obviously, we're very disturbed by this application. Your client should be alerted to how disturbed we are. They could easily lose their variance because they're completely out of compliance with the terms of the many prior continuations. They just kind of did whatever they wanted, and they came back to the board to renew the time, but basically ignored everything. And it seems like it was done subsequent to this property owner taking possession. So there's a 2015 deed. So it sounds like the bad actor is the current property owner.
Speaking with levels of people, because it has levels, it has like the owner, the sublessee, the tenant, and we're speaking with now the tenant, and we're making sure that it all, and that's a new conversation. So we will let them know and get more people on it.
But, you know, tenants get blamed, you know, property owners use tenants as an excuse for not maintaining their property. Property owners are responsible for maintaining the property. Kind of end of story. If your tenant has to go, the tenant has to go.
Yep.
All right. So I'd like to then open this up to the public. And is themselves, please, because we have bad background noise. And Tony, please state the name of the case and the address.
Sure. The item that we're discussing that's been discussed is 52871BZ, 13340 150th Street, Queens.
So please dial in if you would like to speak on this application. The number to dial in is posted on the screen of this video. And in the meantime, Elise, there's a lot to do. So.
Yeah, and I think that we have to discuss with many levels of owners. So we need a decent amount of time to give you a good proposal, and then we'll put it in once you've agreed to.
And we also want to go back to the
community board. Yep.
So we talking 8 weeks?
I'm assuming that the community board, I don't know how everything's working with COVID, but if the community board meets in September, we'll have to go back in September, but I'm not sure how the community boards are currently meeting.
Okay, so we talk about a continuation late September, maybe?
Yeah, maybe the end of September would be good, because that will give us maybe enough time to hopefully meet with the community board.
Okay. Okay. All right, then. We've given a minute for people to call in, and I don't see anyone in the waiting room, right? Okay. So I'm gonna assume a minimum of a late September return. continued, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, next item is 2019-195A, 191 Industrial Loop, Staten Island.
Right, and again, 2019-281-A is adjourned. Okay, so this is
Todd Dale. Todd, you're in?
No.
I already sent him an invite. I already sent him an email also.
Oops. Too bad about that invite. Seemed like a good idea, but seems like it's much too complicated. Here he is.
Yeah.
He's connecting to audio.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Todd Dale for the applicant.
Great.
Thank you.
Hopefully that was quick.
That was very quick. You totally have this down. You should give tutorials. Okay.
I do my best to learn. So I will try and also be quick because I realize it's been a long day. Did listen to review session and heard the comments. Just to provide some background with respect to the fire department, as was noted, because of the objections that were issued on the other industrial loop case that's pending before the board under 2019-68A, the fire department had raised some concerns. We did contact Inspector Daly, provided him the information of the Arthur Kill Association, which is the organization that monitors and repairs industrial loop, put them in contact with each other, and we'll continue to work with them. And the intent is to have a meeting with the fire department and the authority of the Arthur Kill Association to discuss fire department concerns. For that reason, that is why we expect or suspect that no letter has been issued for this particular case, because the two are being reviewed concurrently. Well, the whole site of industrial loop is being reviewed. With respect to DEP, it is the last email that I saw, which was actually from, I believe, was forwarded by Tony from Paulina. The last issue, we believe, resolved the map issues, but they raised a question about their plan not showing a sewer in industrial loop, and they wanted to have a site connection proposal. This is an ongoing difficulty we have with the site, and similar to other cases, maybe we can reach out and work with DEP. But we did provide to the board and submitted a copy of the master plan that was approved originally, which shows the connection to the city sewer. The closest city sewer is in Arthur Kill Road. As part of that master plan, they set up various phases throughout all of industrial loop. And as described to me by the project engineer, essentially this is a rubber stamp that once you develop the site, because the master plan has been approved, that you are connecting to a sewer that does exist in industrial loop. I think that the DEP, the division that's reviewing this, is correct saying that maybe the DEP official drainage plan doesn't show anything, but that's because it's a private sewer that's there that was approved as part of the master plan. So I think that that is where the disconnect is happening on this particular site. Historically, as described again to me by the project engineer, the division of DEP that reviews these SCPs has requested that you don't file these until you get the BSA approval, because they want the BSA approval first. So we run into this situation where we have one arm of DEP saying, please give us this information, and the other arm saying, get the BSA approval first. And it's the classic rock and a hard place situation. And it didn't always come up because, as the board is aware, for many, many years, GCL 36 applications weren't referenced out to DEP. Only the 35s were, because the issue with the 35s was the drainage plan and the map streets and possible infringement with sewers. So I think what we're running into is two divisions having conflicting agendas and us trying to do our best to match them. So.
Okay, well, you know, as we said in the last case that you were representing, perhaps if you could just reach out directly to DEP and have this conversation so that we're not just faced with emails, that kind of never-ending emails.
We will definitely do our best, because I think it would benefit both the board and future applicants, and hopefully we can explain the situation. So that's why the DEP, but just to clarify for the board, the last issue this DEP raised for this particular one was the connection. Every other issue, at least based on their communication, was taken care of. So we're working on that.
And so, a copy of that master plan that you're referring to, if obviously if you could give a copy of that to DEP while you're speaking. So,
I believe it may have been forwarded as part of the record. Tony, do you know if they've received that master plan? I believe they did, but we can
I
send
believe
it again.
so. I believe so. We could send it again.
yeah,
Okay.
no, but what I mean to say is when you get on the phone with them, make sure they have a copy of the master plan in their hand that you
Sure.
can be saying, look, on page 3 of the master plan, it says right here, or whatever. Okay.
We will do our best. That's all I can say to that. And then with respect to the plan, just to clarify, industrial loop at this site is already paved and improved. And when those plans were prepared by the architect to show the road detail, this proposal really is only going to install a better, cleaner new curb along the frontage of this subject property. I believe that that's shown on the detail plan. There's no sidewalk that's planned because there are no sidewalks anywhere within industrial loop.
There is a sidewalk on this drawing. That's why.
No, that sidewalk, I think, is just a frontage. It's not a sidewalk. So
Check it again. No, there are other, meets up with either not
look at the photos that were submitted. I believe that they might have been submitted with the notice of comments response. There are some street level photographs. Originally, just the satellite photos were provided. And if you look at those photos, there's no sidewalk to the north or to the south.
Yeah, but the drawing, I'm going to go to it now. The drawing that was provided to us actually shows a sidewalk.
Madam Chair, if you look at the drawing BSA 1, the top left-hand corner, the sidewalk, the proposed sidewalk connects to what it's called edge of pavement.
Hold on a second, I need to get there.
So it seems, at least the way the drawing is presented, Mr. Dale, it looks like there is a sidewalk that is being proposed, which will connect to a sidewalk, because at the end it says edge of pavement.
Yeah.
On the top left-hand corner of the drawing, BSA A1.
Understood, and I see what you're looking at. I will get clarification again from the architect. I don't believe that is, I'm not sure if that's like just a grass area as opposed to a sidewalk, because that's what's existing right now in front of the site. I think that it does show a curb connecting to the edge of pavement to the north and edge of pavement to the south, but I think that curb, I think it's the curb to grass to lot. I don't believe it's actually supposed to be a paved sidewalk, but I will get confirmation from the architect, just because there is no sidewalk to the north and there is no sidewalk to the south. So this would be a phantom sidewalk within the site.
It's clearly drawn as a sidewalk. Looks like a curb, has a width that looks like a sidewalk. It's not,
I will get clarification from that, but
and actually, we've talked about this before. I don't like the idea of doing new construction without a sidewalk. Just because the prior site doesn't have a sidewalk, you obviously can provide one. They're showing one. So they should be building a sidewalk. And that's what would be required by DOT if this had been a map street. So I don't think you should assume you won't do a sidewalk there.
I understand what you're saying. We've had a number of other approvals and we've never had sidewalks for any of those approvals, and there's no sidewalks through there. So
no, it's actually not correct that never. There are times when we say, give us a sidewalk, and other times where it's not possible to put a sidewalk on.
I'm not, just to clarify, approvals in industrial loop. I'm not saying in general. In general, we do provide sidewalks.
I'm talking about industrial loop.
Okay. For our applications, we have not done them before. The short answer is we need to work with the fire department. We'll get clarification. on the plan that was provided and what the intent is there, whether it's a curb or a sidewalk or additional detail. So we'll make that. But other than the fire department pending meeting, working with DEP, and then clarification of the curb plan, I believe those were the three main issues.
Right. But I would say that also, you know, this thing that we talked about last time, which was the BPP equivalent, even though we know it's not technically a BPP, they should look the same as a BPP, right? And if the roadway is in good shape, then it should and it doesn't need to be repaved or whatever under BPP standards, then you would show photographs that show that it's already paved to DOT standards. Because again, there is no waiver here to build with the materials and methods that are required by the Department of Transportation. What it is you're basically saying you can't sue DOT for having substandard roadways.
No, understood. And generally the waiver of improvements is submitted to confirm the status as a private road. But I understand what you're asking for. This particular architect on other projects has provided these theoretical BPPs before. I believe that the thought was with this particular application, it was because for those other projects, those roads didn't necessarily exist. It does exist here. I will ask them to provide additional detail.
Okay, good, great, thank you.
But I believe those are the three main concerns, unless I'm mistaken.
Any other comments from commissioners? Otherwise, we go to public. All right. So Tony, could you read the case number, address?
Sure. The calendar number is 2019-195A, 191 Industrial Loop, Staten Island.
And so we'd like the public to dial in if they would like to speak on this item. And in the meantime, what kind of timing are you? I know we have an issue with fire department, so, oh, and I'd also like the fire department to speak on this application if they would, if Chief Daly would like to. So in a few seconds. So, but what kind of timing do you think?
I would say with our timing that the most significant, the issue that will require the most time is the meeting we're seeking to arrange. I don't know if the calendar's been set yet for the other industrial loop application, but it might be sensible to put this on the same time frame. But I would say at minimum, we would want 4 weeks to arrange the meeting to make sure that we can satisfy concerns and discuss the issues. But just for convenience sake, depending on how the board's calendar is going, they might do well to run hand in hand.
So you're saying coordinate with, what is
it's
it?
2019-68-A, and that's 235 Industrial Loop. And the only outstanding issue on that application was, again, this fire department meeting.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right then. So we've given a minute and a half for the public to catch up with our, ideally with our time delay. I'd like to ask Chief Daly if he would like to speak on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Dale had provided me with the contact information for the developers over at Industrial Loop. Currently, I am arranging for the various units of the fire department to visit this site, along with the borough commander of Staten Island and other individuals. Unfortunately, it's taken me a little longer than usual because they've asked me to research all the lots in Industrial Loop, which are approximately 54 individual lots. So I'm getting all that information together. I am hoping to be able to make arrangements during the week of June 21st that we'll be able to go. I'll contact the representative over at Industrial Loop and make arrangements for a meeting with him and the borough commander and see if we can put these two cases to rest.
Right.
Our major concern was a traffic arm that is on Industrial Loop off of Arthur Kill Road. This does diminish the width of the roadway for fire department access difficulties. And of course, we have park, as per my inspection there, we have parking on both sides of the street. We have unknown chemicals, barrels stored in the street of unknown chemicals. So that's why I have various teams will be visiting the site to confirm what we have there and what has to be done.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other comments, concerns from commissioners, staff, anything? Okay, so then we will try to coordinate this with the other application 2019-68A, assuming that's not scheduled for, 2 weeks from now, hopefully. We have for enough time. I actually don't know, so. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, what do we want to do with 2018-67 Fifth Avenue?
Well, we're not to it yet. We finished. Oh, look at that. Okay. We could, so this was the last hearing on the 10 a.m. calendar?
Yes.
Oh, cool. How does
It's the last case.
How does everyone feel to just discuss, and do we have access to, who's the applicant for that case?
I emailed David Rosenberg to tell him to be ready. I thought it was Frank Noriega. I apologize. I don't have Mr. Rosenberg's cell phone number.
Okay.
I was texting Mr. Noriega, but I was emailing Mr. Rosenberg now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we can call it. Let's see if we can call it.
Yeah, we can try to call it.
2018-67 BZ 7406 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn. Mr. Rosenberg, please call in, or I'll invite even Frank. Maybe you can call in and talk about it.
Yeah, that's who appeared at the hearing in whenever that was, February. David Rosenberg, and in March.
No, I had Noriega for some reason.
Yeah. Another option is to take a 5-minute break or something instead of.
I told him to please call in.
Yeah, but if he doesn't know. I actually think we should see if we can reach out by maybe we take a break, like a 5-minute break, and then so we're not all of us here waiting, and try calling all the people at his office to see if they have his cell phone number.
Yeah, the only number he gave me was the office number.
No, I know, but we know we can reach Elise. We know we can.
No, it's not Elise.
Not Elise. I mean, Fayanne. We know we can reach Richard, and maybe they can reach out to. Oh, wait, there he is. What do you know?
Yeah. Thank you. David?
Give him a chance. Give him a chance.
Okay. Sorry.
Please state your name when you can hear us, Mr. Rosenberg. So we know we can reach. And turn off your YouTube video.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. David Rosenberg of Shelton LaBelle PC on behalf of the applicant. Thank you for your consideration and bearing with me while I sorted out some technical issues here on my own.
Okay. So
let's wait.
Paying attention to the bumpiness of our technology and the order of cases and so on. Appreciate that you're so available.
So now that it's reopened, so we have to swear him in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony to this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Proceed, Mr. Rosenberg.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. David Rosenberg on behalf of Shelton LaBelle PC for the applicant. We heard the comments, and we are very grateful for the board's consideration to reopen this. Since the hearing, we have obtained since the earlier comments, we have obtained copies of the actual approved sprinkler plans that were filed with the Department of Buildings. We have those available, and the architect is currently working to amend the plans to include the note suggested by Commissioner Sheta. My understanding with respect to the sprinklers was that the fire department had asked that we show them filed sprinkler plans, and not that specifically that the work needed to be done before they would be okay with an approval here. And with respect to the board's other issue of the first floor layout, as part of the amended plans that we submitted, and that will also be reflected on the new set that comes in, the proposal here is for the job at DOB that will result in a C of O based on this application to white box that first floor space. And obviously, once there is a new retail tenant there, any new partitions would require DOB review and approval.
So, and just to clarify, to white box a space means that you're applying to DOB to remove all the existing partitions, market it as a white box, as a plain vanilla box. And
everything in that first floor space that's not a structural fixture that needs to be there is going to be cleared out.
Okay, so it's going to be shown, just to be clear, you're going to be showing, amending the drawings, or maybe they don't need to be amended, but the drawings will show no partitions other than structural, and if any partitions are built, that's under a separate alteration application approved by DOB.
Correct.
Okay, and then, and in terms of fire department, I'm going to let fire department decide what it is that they want to see. What I wanted to see was the approved fire department, approved sprinkler drawings, because there was a statement made that they're approved, and it's possible to get a copy of the approved ones, so we need to see the approved drawings. Okay? Can you hear? Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was muted. I'm just preparing to send Deputy Director Matias a copy of the approved plans before we can put together a formal submission to submit with a cover letter.
That's the approved sprinkler drawings.
Yes.
All right. So,
John, fire department.
So I'd like to ask Chief Daly for his comments about, so the question is, apparently there are approved sprinkler drawings on this, but I understand that, and I agree that the real issue is that a structure was built in the rear yard that prevents proper egress, second means of egress by the tenants, so that you want sprinklers in the stairway because it's now the sole means of egress for the tenants on the second and third floor. And my question to you is, and they could obviously obtain a permit and do the work prior to our making a decision. Is that something, because they don't need an approval from us to install sprinklers because the use is residential and allowable commercial, right? The application before us is a little extension in the rear. So it's unrelated to that. So go ahead, Chief Daly.
Well, Madam Chair, my question, your board's resolution on this, you're granting them the approval for that extension based on that, well, they had eliminated the second means of egress, but by providing sprinklers in the stairwell, shouldn't they be linked together?
No, but so that's the thing. We could make it conditional, but my problem with conditional is what happens when we do these conditional approvals. Nothing.
Well, because this is a fire department issue, if you make it a condition of the resolution, and once your office provides that to the fire department, we'll go there and verify. Plus, because it's a residential sprinkler system, we do inspection every 5 years, testing of the system. If we go there and we find that the sprinkler was not installed, we legally have to vacate the second and third floor legally. And I'm sure the owners would not want us vacating their second and third floor, because it could take almost 2 years for us to lift our vacate orders.
Okay. All right.
I had reviewed the sprinkler plans, thanks to the training at the National Fire Academy. The plans that they had submitted to your office, they're acceptable. And I was able to get onto the DOB now and see that the building department has accepted the hydraulic calculations, the flow calculations. So I have no issues with this application anymore.
Okay, great. All right.
Yeah, he just sent me the plans too, David.
So anyway, all we would be able to do today is close because we can't close it. So,
you had the thing about the fines?
oh yeah, that's right. Good point. And so we have $15,000 in open ECB violations, which were, and you know, we don't decide on cases where you have an let's say unnegotiated set of fines. You can go to ECB and say, you know, here's a payment plan or something, but we can't have $15,000 in fines outstanding. So I think that's and I understand this owner has now gone to enormous expense to vacate the tenant. This is one of the problems of an absentee landlord situation. You don't find out, arguably, what's going on. But anyway, so I would say we should give the owner enough time to negotiate a deal with ECB. And then, right. So I suppose we could close this with the understanding that we won't vote on it until the violations have been addressed. I mean, they're not really violations. The violations are being cured by this application. It's that those penalties not being paid, right?
Well, my understanding is that the violations that exist don't actually relate to the physical structure. They all relate to either the previous illegal use or whatever work the previous tenant did in the cellar.
Correct.
And even the plumbing application that was revoked as stop work order was the interior plumbing work relating to that tenant.
Correct.
So we understand the board's position that these ECB violations need to be paid, and I will work with our client and with ECB to see if we can reach resolution. But to be clear, they're not related to the extension that's the subject of this application.
Well, yes, they are, because the extension was occupied by the illegal use, right? And the extension that was built without permits obstructed fire egress, which arguably wouldn't have been permitted had they filed with DOB, because you needed a second means of egress or install sprinklers or whatever. So I disagree with you.
So if I can then just correct what I said, it's that they're not being corrected by the granting of this legalization application.
There's well, maybe. Okay, I don't know why I
don't think we need to split hairs on this.
So, okay, so you need to work out some sort of deal with ECB, pay the violations, or work out a payment plan or something. And we need to see that. And in the meantime, we'll be looking at make sure we have in our record a copy of the approved sprinkler drawings. And so we can close this. Okay.
Just David, put a cover letter. You emailed it to me, but can you officially submit it?
Yeah, we officially submit it. I expect the turnaround on the revised drawings with the additional note within the next 24 hours, if not sooner. And I'll put those together in a formal submission with a cover letter.
So the drawings are being revised to
add Commissioner Shetta's suggested note that interior partitions be approved by DOB before installation.
Okay, and also sprinkler drawings. Okay, all right then. So again, since we opened the hearing, we need to invite members of the public to speak on this. If anyone is interested in speaking on this, can you read the case number, please, Tony?
Sure, 2018-67 BZ 7406 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this. So in terms of timing, revise the drawings, sprinkler drawings, pay the violations. So working out stuff with ECB, you need to allow a little bit of time. So certainly not sooner than 4 weeks to to submit, right? Have you had any experience with working with ECB during this time period?
I have not. I know that some of my colleagues in the office have.
Okay, so in other words, there's a way to be in touch and so on?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I don't see anyone having called in from the public. So then I think we could make a motion to close this with the understanding of these submissions, okay? Motion.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta?
Aye.
Do you repeat that?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Shabeta?
You're muted or something. Say it again.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rosenberg, for being so nimble on calling in at the last minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all commissioners. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Come on, amazing.
Yay, this concludes the public hearing. Yay, we did it.
Caught up, and we should make a note somewhere that we heard everything in a different order.
Yay.
Good job.
Okay, well done, everyone. Thank you so much. See you.
Okay, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.